Li Man also understood that she was too nervous, and unconsciously let out a laugh too. Actually, Li Shu really didn't have any bad intention, he's just like a big kid who loved to tease people. "Wife, are you still unhappy?" Looking at her finally laughing, Li Shu strode to her leisurely with his long legs. Li Man was puzzled. "I'm not unhappy." Tisk. Li Shu looked at her with a contemptuous look. "Don't lie to me, you think that I'm like Big Brother, that I still can't see anything." Saying this, he bent down to lean near her as he whispered, "Tell me honestly, what the hell's going on? Did Big Brother really bully you? Just look at your face, it looks like a bitter gourd right now, and you still dare lie to me and said that it was because of dust?" Li Man looked at him suspiciously while feeling amused, looking at his attentive look like it was looking for a new hot gossip. "No way, it's not like that. Big Brother wanted to put the panel there and I wasn't happy about it. Furthermore, the dust also flew into my eyes, so, like this." Li Man's heart settled down when she felt that she was cared by him. "Big Brother, why did you put that broken thing in my wife's room? What if she knocked on it when she gets up in the middle of the night? I'll throw it away." Saying this, he rubbed his palm, preparing to throw the plank out. Li Man busily held him down. "Forget it, let it go, putting it there won't block anything." "Really?" Li Shu squinted, his eyes full of amusement. Li Man glanced at Li Mo unconsciously and nodded shyly. "Really, so let's just put it there." Li Shu raised the edges of his lips and smiled while putting one hand on Li Man's shoulder, saying with enthusiasm, "Wife, I met little Five at the village's gate. He said that he already can recite poems. You should teach me too. I want to read and write with you." "You want to learn too? Did she really become the female husband of this family?" However, it's always good to be willing to learn, so Li Man didn't think much of it and nodded happily. "Well, as long as you have time." When Li Mo walked out and saw the atmosphere between third brother and their wife was good, he can't help but feel sour at one side while happy on the other side. Li Shu talked with Li Man enthusiastically. "That's right, the meat that you and Big Brother bought yesterday had already been washed and hung on the pole. Big Brother said that you want to make some buns with it." "Wife, I didn't buy any food at the market today because I'm waiting for your buns." "Then what did you guys eat for lunch?" The food that could be said fulfilling while being cheap at the same time in the market was only buns. Second brother made some flat cakes for breakfast in the morning, so I and Big Brother brought some of them with us. Li Shu answered, "It's already quite late, wife, we should go and make the buns now." Those few flat cakes wouldn't be enough to make them full, they should be hungry right then, so Li Man quickly agreed. "All right." Li Shu went together with her to the kitchen while Li Mo was staring with a dumbfounded expression at the side. He then walked out to the courtyard to clean up the straws he used to scrub the plank. Since Li Man liked being neat and tidy, the courtyard and rooms were cleaned up nicely every day. This gradually changed the habits of the brothers, and any garbage would be immediately disposed of. After tidying them up, he was left with nothing to do, and so he decided to go inside the kitchen. Li Shu took the meat and chopped it according to Li Man's instructions. When he saw Li Mo coming in, he asked curiously, "Big Brother, what are you doing here?" "Me?" Li Mo didn't answer Li Shu, and instead looked at Li Man. "I'll help you make the buns." "But you can do it?" Li Man took out some pickled cabbage from a small earthen jar, while having some doubts hearing him saying it. Sure enough, Li Mo's face was slightly awkward, but he still insisted, "I'll help you wash the vegetables." Li Man paused for a bit, looking at his two big palms and thought, isn't he afraid that he would rub the vegetables to oblivion? Li Shu chopped the meat with a ridiculing smile on his face. "Big Brother, you better just wait to eat dinner. If you wash the vegetables, I won't dare eat it." "Can you even wash the vegetables right?" Li Mo felt really embarrassed. He only ever did little to nothing over kitchen's matter. Even the fragrance of the rice he cooked can't be compared to little Five. Li Man saw Li Shu teasing Li Mo and her heart couldn't bear it, so she took a small basket and gave it to him. "Go to the backyard and pick some vegetables then. We'll have lots of kinds of buns tonight, some meat and some vegetables." Li Mo nodded and cheerfully grabbed the basket to pick vegetables at the backyard. Li Shu was stunned while squatting, murmuring as if saying to himself, "Wife, big brother seems a bit strange." "What?" Li Man paused and asked instinctively. Li Shu looked at Li Man and smiled. Big brother rarely come inside the kitchen. He was most afraid of picking and washing vegetables before. "Oh." Li Man's face flushed red, the edges of her lips secretly lifted in a smile. She asked Li Shu while closing the lid of the pickle jar, "Is it enough with this many pickles?" Li Shu also didn't really understand about kitchens matter, so he casually said, "I think it's enough already. We can leave some for tomorrow." N. Li Man nodded, holding the pickles, and went outside to the well to wash them. When she just washed it once, Li Mo put down the basket beside her. "Is this enough?" Li Man was a little dumbfounded. "Did you just pick all the vegetables there?" "A full basket of vegetables. How much buns does he plan to make?" Li Mo felt a bit embarrassed. "Is it too much? I saw the vegetables there are getting too old if we don't quickly eat them. But it doesn't mean that we should eat them all." Li Man grabbed the basket and took out 2 big handful of vegetables, then she gave the basket to Li Mo. "Just save the rest, we can eat them later." "Okay." While Li Mo agreed, he didn't seem to want to leave. He instead squatted down, reaching out his hand inside the water and helped Li Man wash the pickles. Li Man hurriedly said, "Your hands have mud. I already washed the pickles once already." Li Mo's face showed a tangled look. So he really couldn't help with anything? Looking at his innocent expression, Li Man couldn't help but smile. "Why don't you go and wash your hands first?" Li Mo's straight lips were slightly raised. He then took some water and rubbed his hands clean, then spread them for Li Man to see. Li Man nodded her head with an N sound, giving him the pickles to be washed. The 2 people squatted at one place, washing the vegetables with tacit understanding. After washing the pickles several times, Li Mo then continued with pulling up more water to wash the fresh vegetables he just picked. Li Shu waited for a long time, but he still didn't see Li Man coming back, so he felt a bit restless. He put down the cleaver on the chopping block and went out only to see his big brother and wife squatting together while washing vegetables. His heart couldn't help but feel sour all of a sudden. Leaning his hand on the doorframe, he called out, "Wife, come here." "What is it?" Li Man turned her head and asked. Li Shu raised one of his eyebrow and said, "Come here and look. Has the meat been chopped nicely?" "Oh, wait a minute, I'll wash the vegetables first." Li Man answered as she continued washing the vegetables. Li Mo was a bit stunned by a hint of confrontation in third brother's words. "Man'er, why don't you go and take a look? The veggies will be washed clean in just a minute." When Li Man's voice just fell, she was suddenly shocked by a blood-curdling scream from Li Shu, AAA. And then he screamed to her, "Wife, I cut my hand." "Ha, how can it be?" Li Man didn't dare dilly-dallied and hurriedly ran to the kitchen while asking worriedly, "How can you cut your own hand?" "Let me take a look." Li Shu immediately came over and presented his left hand for Li Man to see. Li Man blinked her eyes as she carefully looked at his hand. There was no blood, and there even no damaged skin at all, so she can't help but ask, "Where did you cut your hand?" Her line of sight unconsciously fell on his wrist. Li Shu extended his middle finger and showed her the rim of his nail. "See that? My nail got cut off. I almost cut my hand like this." Li Man paused and was suddenly covered in black lines. She asked with repressed anger, "Where's the missing nail?" "It would spoil the meat if it's mixed in." Li Shu busily answered, "I threw it out the window." Li Man squinted at him furiously, then she looked at the chopped meat. "It still need more chopping. I'm going to wash the vegetables." "Wife." Li Shu hurriedly pulled her arm and begged, "Can you please accompany me for a bit longer? My hand won't have any strength if you're not here. I can't even grab the cleaver." "He still dares to act spoiled?" Li Man looked in front and realized that her height could only measure up to his neck. She said coldly, "If you have no strength, I'll let Big Brother come." Li Shu busily said, "Big Brother is doing a good job washing the veggies. Why do you still want to call him over?" He pulled Li Man to sit on the stool. "Wife, why don't you sit here and look at me chopping the meat?" "All right. Not alright, Li Man's heart said, but she's afraid that he would play another wicked trick again, so she can only stayed. As she can't be idle, she then used a plate to scoop out some water, put it on the table, and started to knead the dough. Li Shu smiled looking at his wife while chopping the meat again. The cleaver moved quickly like it has wings, his movement became bigger. Soon, Li Mo was done washing the vegetables and then he took them into the kitchen. Li Man was worried, so she secretly examined them, but it seemed that her worry wasn't needed as he really washed them clean. He gave them to Li Shu to be chopped into tiny pieces. When the stuffing was chopped nicely, the dough had also become soft. She then took a clean gauze, spread it on the table and wrapped it carefully. The first to be stuffed was the meat, because other than her, the rest of the family all loved to eat meat, and it would be better if it was more fatty, so Li Man tightly wrapped their buns. Li Mo and Li Shu didn't have anything else to do, so they also sat down, wanting to help wrapping the buns, but after wrapping 2 buns, Li Man saw them crumbled and spilling out stuffing. It just couldn't be eaten at all. But the 2 men insisted to do something with her. Whatever she said was of no use, so she could only use the rolling pin to chase them away. Without the 2 annoying bugs, Li Man wrapped up the buns skillfully and quickly. 15 meat buns, 10 vegetable buns and another 10 pickled vegetable buns was wrapped nicely in less than half an hour. There were only a few of dough left, but there were still a lot of pickled and fresh vegetables left over, so Li Man put them on clean bowls and left the bowls of vegetables inside the cupboard, so they could use them for tomorrow morning's breakfast. She couldn't lit up the fire, so after she put the buns in the steamer, she called Li Mo to help her. The one who ran inside first was Li Shu, followed by Li Mo. One look was all Li Man took to know that Li Mo fought with his little brother, but Li Mo didn't want to give up. Because of his hesitation, he was left behind Li Shu. Looking at Li Shu squatting under the stove with a radiant face while Li Mo blankly stood at the side with regret on his face, Li Man's heart suddenly welled up with a strange feeling. Perhaps, this kind of days isn't bad at all. The men who love me could get into a fight in the future, but isn't it still a fun-filled life? Li Man thought, and the inside of her mind suddenly appeared some kind of enlightenment. She grabbed the dirty plates and filled Li Mo's hands with them. If you don't have anything to do, then why don't you go and wash these? Yes. Li Mo's answer was really natural. The moment when he turned around, Li Man felt that they were like an old couple. The edges of her mouth unconsciously lifted up into a gentle smile. Li Shu waited until the fire burned vigorously, then he came over to look at his wife. Wife, we should go to the market together tomorrow. Those wild vegetables will surely be spoiled if we just leave them inside like that. All right. Li Man didn't think too much and agreed. After all, if she go with Li Mo through that road again, she would be embarrassed to death. Towards evening, Li Yan and Little Five came back home together. Little Five played until all of his body dripping with sweat, so he immediately washed his face, and hurriedly came face to face with his brothers to bring back the sand plate. Today he played too much, he's afraid that his brothers would blame him. Alright, what are you still pretending for at this time? Wash yourself up nicely and go eat some buns. Li Shu looked at his appearance, and he hit Little Five on the head while laughing with amusement. Little Five then looked at Big Brother and Second Brother. Big Brother nodded, but Second Brother, his face was painted with a smile that wasn't a smile, making him shivered and flustered. Li Shu saw Li Yan standing under the eaves without moving, so he urged him, Second Brother, you should also quickly wash your hands. Otherwise, wife won't allow you to take any buns. Washing hands before eating also became a rule after Li Man came to this house. Really? If I washed, then she would allow me to take? Li Yan shrugged and asked without rhyme or reason. Without waiting for Li Shu's answer, he walked to the well and washed his hands. Li Man listened to him from the kitchen and couldn't help but wrinkled her nose. This bad guy is really vengeful. He still remember what happened at noon. Alright, let's see if he still want to eat dinner or not. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 206 Fight. Chapter 206 Fight. In addition to the buns, Li Man also simmered a pot of thin gruel. She ladled each person a bowl of it in the kitchen while everyone were talking outside. She placed them down on the dinner table, and after that she also placed the chopping block that she wiped clean on the middle of the table, putting the bamboo steamer filled with buns on top of it. She made a mark on the 3 kinds of different stuffed buns and let them pick what they'd like to eat themselves. She found that no one hadn't come in after she appropriately prepared dinner, so she brought with her the small oil lamp and went out to call on them, "Come and eat." "Oh, I'm coming," Li Shu answered while patting little Five's shoulder. Then he came inside the kitchen, followed by Li Mo and Li Yan. "Wife, your buns are really delicious. The taste is strong and it's even more delicious than what they sell outside." Li Shu reached out his claw and grabbed a meat bun, biting into the soft white body with impatience resulting in a scalded mouth, but he still didn't want to spit it out even for a bit. His mouth chewed aggressively while praising his own wife to high heavens. Li Man hurriedly passed him a pair of chopstick. "Use chopstick to eat, they just came out of the stove, they must be scalding hot ah. Third brother, eat slower. With this much food, no one will fight with you to eat." Li Yan wasn't used to see the third fawning like that, letting his mouth scalded in order to curry favor with wife. Saying this, Li Yan also took a pair of chopstick and leisurely clipped a meat bun, placing it in front of him and carefully looked if there's anything that's still not satisfying. After a long while, he finally let out a ridiculing sentence, "Although the appearance is passable, but the size is a bit too small. Third brother could finish one with only 2 bites, but how can it be?" Li Shu just gobbled one bun up and wanted to clip another while he listened to what Li Yan said. He felt embarrassed. Was he really that ravenous? Li Man knew that Li Yan had another meaning in saying this, so she clipped some big buns and gave them to Li Shu herself. "Come on, don't hesitate to eat. It's because you love to eat so I made this much. I'm still worried that there would be some left over." When Li Shu heard what his wife said, he was suddenly radiant with joy and he cockily raised one of his eyebrows toward Li Yan. When Li Yan wanted to took one of the buns with his chopstick, another chopstick quickly snatched the bun. If second brother thought the buns were only passable, you could just not eat it. "Anyway, wife made it for me." "Oomph, dot." Li Yan paused for a bit, his eyes dimmed. He didn't take the buns anymore as he bowed his head and drank the porridge one mouthful each time. Because she made many buns for dinner, she thought that very watery porridge was still okay for accompaniment, so she only grabbed a handful of rice to make a big bowl of porridge. At this moment, she looked at him silently drinking that watery gruel while the others were eating buns. He looked really pitiful. "Second brother, this bun is really good. Man-air knows you like light flavoring so she specially made this with less salt." Li Mo clipped a bun and put it inside Li Yan's bowl. "What?" Li Yan looked at Li Man with doubts. Li Man lowered her head, remaining silent while eating a bun, secretly upset with Li Mo's big mouth, and also, she was just afraid of using too much salt because of the pickles, so she put away that last spoon of salt. Looking at her eating silently, Li Yan trusted what Big Brother said, and he naturally was glad to accept the steamed bun. He bit into it, and his eyebrow slightly frowned immediately. "Not much salt, the taste is especially bland." Almost at the same time, all the people at the table glared at him with wide eyes. Li Man furiously bit into the vegetable bun. "If you don't like, then don't eat it." Li Shu and the others clearly said that the buns were really delicious. The taste was stronger than the buns sold at the market. T/N at the bottom. Li Mo can't help but sighed inwardly. What's wrong with second brother? Normally he was such a clever man, how can he today chose to do stupid things? Saying it like this, does he think that he could make wife like him? Looking at him missing wife until he shout her name in his dreams, Li Mo didn't know what second brother really thought about in his head at this moment. Li Shu was astounded and played the same old trick. "Second brother, if you really don't like it, then don't eat I'll leave some for tomorrow to eat again. Anyway, since it's what wife cooked, I won't be fed up even if I have to eat them every day." Looking at them, they were sure brothers, but how can their difference so big? The words Li Shu said really let people feeling warm awe. Li Man's expression eased up a bit and she gave Li Shu a warm smile while gently saying, "You can't eat this every day. Even if you're not fed up eating, I'd be fed up cooking it. But I see that you like eating food made from wheat flour. I can also make dumpling and wonton. I'll cook them for you next time. Li Shu deeply nodded, his face lit up like a light bulb, kissing Li Man's cheek without holding back. With a wave of noises, everybody was startled and surprised. Li Man's face flushed red like a boiling shrimp looking at the sheepish and gentle smile of Li Shu, but at this moment, she still pretended to be calm and collected, silently finishing one bun in her hand. After she finished the bun, the others started to return to their consciousness. Liemo spontaneously looked at Li Yan. The look in his eyes was quite clear that he was studying third brother. Little Five was a clever child. He secretly gave a look of disdain toward Li Yan. He already gave second brother a lecture this noon and he immediately forgot about it? Alright, he'll give him an example. Sister, I love eating too, can you cook for me too? Little Five sat down beside Li Man, slightly raising his head up while blinking his limpid and clear big eyes. It's as if he's cutely fawning on her. The eager and cute expression immediately set Li Man's heart soft just like a puddle of water. Li Man stretched her hand and gently rubbed Little Five's cheek. Whatever my Little Five likes to eat, sister will cook it all for you, but... Sister, what kind of food dumpling and wonton is? I never eat, I also want to eat it. Little Five licked his lower lip just like a little glutton. Li Man was amused with his expression and her heart was gushing with tender love. What you say you like to eat, I'll give them to you tomorrow. Luckily we still have some leftover stuffing and sister is the best. Saying this, Little Five suddenly pouted his little mouth and gave Li Man's cheek a little peck. At this time, it provoked the three brothers with jealousy and envy. However this time, Li Man only laughed and didn't have any awkwardness like before. On the contrary, she dotingly rubbed on Little Five's head. Alright, don't show off your cleverness again, I'll cook them for you next morning. There are still many buns left, quickly and eat them, don't let them become cold. Little Five nodded his head while laughing, then he gave a meaningful sideways glance toward Li Yan. Li Yan suddenly burned with jealousy. He also had tried to ingratiate himself to her but she didn't eat any soft or hard food that he gave. T/N, soft or hard way. Should he go and look into their 8 characters? What if they're not suitable? He dared to say, if he acted like third brother or Little Five, he would certainly still be given her scornful gaze. Nanair, don't keep on talking, let's quickly eat, lest the buns will be cold. Liemo said as he clipped the already cold bun from her bowl to his own bowl, then he clipped the still hot bun from the steamer and gave it to her. Li Man gave him a sweet smile and bowed to eat the bun he gave her. Li Yan felt like his blood was flowing backwards. Even a simple and slow man like his big brother can also learn how to coax a woman? Should he ram his head into a block of tofu? Finally, he couldn't resign himself to this situation anymore. Li Yan was looking down on how the others acting like this, so he just clipped a meat bun and gave it to Li Man. And, you shouldn't just eat vegetables, eat some meat, you look too thin. It was originally a good-willed words, but because of the last sentence it instead became hateful, as if he was hinted on something else entirely. This made Li Man couldn't swallow anything, so she put the meat bun back into his bowl. I can take my own bun myself, but... Li Yan choked looking at her small face fuming with anger. He immediately explained, I only feel sorry for you, I never said that your thin self isn't good looking. The more he tried to explain, the more he dug his own grave, as if he disliked her being thin and not good looking. Li Man's face became even more black. Which woman doesn't like being called beautiful? That's right, wife is beautiful no matter how she looks. Li Shu ate the buns while sizing up Li Man's body up and down, like his wife's figure was really good with her bosom bulging and her thin waist. However, if only it could be bigger in some places. Li Shu nodded secretly in his heart, she really should eat some more meat and make those parts bigger. Liemo gave Li Yan a glance, trying to help him out of the predicament, but after he thought until his head became heated, he said, I think being thin is good, if fat. Before he even finished his words, he got the other's look of suspicion, his face suddenly flushed with crimson color. I should just die, where did my thoughts went to? She couldn't eat any more of this dinner. Li Man swallowed her last bun and put down the chopstick as she busily stood up and walked away. Man air. Li Mo was vexed incessantly. He was afraid and called her out. I'm done eating. Li Man answered without looking back as she went out the door and walked toward her own room. The brothers looked at each other in dismay. Everyone was criticizing each other in their eyes. Little Five looked at third brother and gave a long sigh as he continued eating his bun with his head lowered. Anyway, he didn't care how angry sister was because she's not angry at him, so it had nothing to do with him. Once Li Man walked away, those brothers felt like the buns became tasteless suddenly. They could only finish what's inside their bowl blankly. After a silent night, at the early morning the next day, Li Man woke up and rolled some dough, and using the leftover stuffing, she made some dumplings and put them inside a pot to cook. It wasn't enough to fill the tummy of those big men with just 30 dumplings, but luckily there were still some leftover dumplings from last night, so they ate until they became full. After they ate breakfast, Li Shu urged Li Man to go together to the market and sell yesterday's wild garlic. Anyway, Big Brother said that today was the date around the room, so he wanted to spend all noon with wife alone to cultivate love. Thinking about that, Li Shu thought that it was the best way. Li Man used a clean bag to place some buns and brought along some water, then she went along with Li Shu. When she just went out of the village's gate, Li Shu let her sit on the cart. She didn't want to sit, but she was finally shoved to sit on the cart. Li Shu had his own agenda though, because he thought they would round the room tonight, so he didn't want wife to waste any more energy. If wife became tired from the noon's activities, then he would be the one who suffered when she couldn't do it at night. So he became determined not to make Li Man tired. And because of that, Li Man found out that Li Shu was just like a beast or a Superman. He could easily pass through the most difficult road in the mountain while pushing the cart loaded with 2 baskets of wild garlic and a person. Can he also fly? So, after this easy journey, they arrived at the market 2 hours earlier, and so there were still a lot of people buying vegetables there. So Li Shu stood there attracting customer, while Li Man serving the customers. He shouted with his sexy and loud voice, and it's no wonder that in just a short time, many people came over to buy. The people who bought the vegetables all came from neighboring towns as they came every day. There were some who bought Li Man's wild garlic 2 days ago, so when they saw her, they were all excitedly surrounding her. Girl, are you coming to sell more wild garlic? How come we didn't see you? These wild garlic are really fragrant. I want to buy 2 Jean. It's even tastier than the garlic sold at this market. A big lady grabbed 2 handful of wild garlic and gave them to Li Man to weigh. Li Man wasn't familiar with this kind of steelyard, a type of balance, so after she received it, she let Li Shu weigh them instead. After weighing them, Li Shu collected the money. Li Man then gave a handful more for the lady. The big lady was really satisfied that she can't help but praised, "This lady is really good." Other people around started to surround them to buy wild garlic too. They also praised Li Man's beautiful appearance. Such a good woman, if they could marry her, they would be really fortunate. Immediately, there's someone who asked with curiosity, "Girl, why are you not with your husband today?" When Li Man wanted to give an ambiguous answer that Li Mo was at home, Li Shu raised his eyebrows and answered with a big voice, "How can he's not here?" "I'm here." Eh? The big lady who hadn't went far away turned back and looked at Li Shu up and down. "You are? How can it be so different? Different? What part is different?" Different from wife's husband. This sentence was just like an insult to Li Shu. According to him, he was born handsome, while wife was born pretty. He's tall and big with a well-built physique, while wife was cute and lovely. There's no one who's more suitable than them. That's right, I really think that you're not the same. Young man, are you sure the one before was really you? Do I have blurry vision now? Another old lady squinted her eyes and carefully looked at him. "Granny, how much do you want to buy?" "I'll help you weigh it." Li Man didn't want to really be entangled with this topic, so she helped the old lady pick some fresh wild garlic. But the old lady still gazed at Li Shu. Haven't meat for 2 days, didn't expect that young man became more handsome. That's of course. Li Shu cockily laughed and said, "It was my big brother before." "Your big brother? It's no wonder you're younger than him." The big lady nodded and smiled. "Why isn't your big brother coming today and let you accompany your sister-in-law to sell vegetables?" "What sister-in-law? She's my wife." Li Shu laughed boisterously while packing the wild garlic to the old lady. "Granny, it's 3 Jean, I'll add a little more for you." Wait. The old lady's expression became dark and her sight sternly stared at Li Man. "Girl, so who's your husband at the end? Is the one before not your man? How come you're bringing another man today?" Li Man was panic-stricken with the old lady's interrogation. "Grandma. Girl, how can this be?" The big lady also looked at her with dubious expression. How to explain this? Li Man was depressed with them. Furthermore, this topic was breaching her privacy. "What? How can this be?" Li Shu saw those several old women made things difficult for his own wife, so he immediately became angry and waved his hand towards the crowd. "Do you want to buy or not? If you don't want to buy, then go away." "Yo, how can this youngster's temperament this bad?" Someone was displeased and glared at Li Shu. "What? Do you guys come here to buy or just to talk indiscriminately like a gossipy woman?" Li Shu criticized them in anger. Some of the old ladies standing at the side became ill at ease when suddenly, one of them pointed her finger to the two of them. "Oh, I see, you guys come from Goddess Ravine, right? What's wrong with Goddess Ravine? I don't welcome you all." Li Shu answered hastily. "It's no wonder." Several women's faces revealed a disdainful expression. Along with those who praised Li Man before, they all put back the wild garlic that they bought to Li Man's basket. The big lady said with pity, "Girl, you're a good woman, how can you go to that place? You even become several man's wife, do you not want your reputation anymore? Because of what you do, you will be sawed by little devils when you go to the underworld." Reputation? Li Man was stunned. There were many families in the Goddess Ravine that did things like her Li family. If they still want reputation, then those women in Goddess Ravine couldn't live anymore. However, what she didn't know was that other places weren't like Goddess Ravine. Even all the girl from the city nearby took chastity as a really important virtue, so her village was seen as barbarian and low in others' eyes. The people that came from there were also like that. Go, we don't have any shit relation with you all." Li Shu busily chased away those flies that liked to gossip, then he turned back and comforted Li Man. "Wife, don't care about their short-sightedness." After experiencing these kinds of things in these few days, Li Man actually already accepted becoming a shared wife somewhat. But what she couldn't accept was the scorn and disrespect from people's eyes towards Goddess Ravine. Furthermore, those people's attitude towards them suddenly changed, looking at them like dirty pestilences. Some of the housewives that were chased away by Li Shu looked down upon them, some pitied them, and some even became angry at them. They then went away. "Wife, don't be angry anymore. Those housewives just love to wag their tongues, don't think too much about them." Seeing Li Man staring in a daze, Li Shu busily comforted her gently. Li Man shook her head. "No problem." She actually felt uncomfortable being stared at like that by people for the first time. It was just like when she went to a hospital with her mother as a child. She also received disdainful looks that she couldn't forget until now. "Really?" Li Shu wasn't rest assured, so he once again consoled her. "Wife, you really shouldn't hear what they say. What with King Yama's little devils, even if you die, there's still me, there are still us brothers accompanying you. Even King Yama wouldn't dare think to make a move against you." Hearing Li Shu's clenched fists crackling sound, it was like King Yama going to pull and punish her now. She can't help letting out a chuckling sound. Alright, King Yama is a busy man, how can he has time to deal with this trivial matter? But if a woman marrying several men should be sawed, how about man that married so many wives? Especially the ancient emperor, wouldn't he be chopped into a minced meat by then? "Wife, are you not afraid?" Li Shu gazed at her with suspicion. Li Man looked back at him with a smile. "Don't I have you guys?" Li Shu became happy this time. "Wife, don't be afraid, we brothers wouldn't let anyone bully you, even King Yama and those little devils wouldn't." Alright, don't talk about something horrifying at noon. Li Man rubbed her arms, then looked at the messy wild garlic inside the basket with a disheartened look. Look at it, we couldn't sell them. If we don't sell, then don't sell, we could just eat them by ourselves. Li Shu answered with a huff. Li Man was helpless. There's only this way. They tidied up their things, and when they were just about to leave, a group of men came in from the market's gate. Those men looked like scoundrels. When they saw Li Man, all of their eyes became green immediately. Young master, the beauty is here. Oh. One of them turned his head and shouted towards the back. Several big thugs clustered around a skinny and wizened middle-aged man. That man was holding a fan while walking over, covering his nose with a disdainful look. Soon afterwards, his gaze followed along the pageboy's finger and landed on Li Man. His triangular eyes suddenly widened, lust immediately dyed his face. Yo, that one posy didn't deceive this father this time. There really is a beautiful goddess in here. Young master, do we directly tie her up and bring her back? That pageboy coaxingly asked. His own eyes squinted when he saw Li Man, the corner of his mouth flowing out a stream of drool without him knowing. The bony man heavily struck the pageboy's head with his folding fan. Tie what? If you dare hurt this father's beauty, this father will bake you in the sun. You guys scatter up, this father will come personally. The servants who wanted to head on first became obedient and made a path. The skinny man swaggered and walked to the front, his obscene gaze measured Li Man up and down, but he still pretended to be elegant when he introduced himself. Young lady, this scholar gives respect to you. This scholar is only a native from the capital city, my father. Scram! Li Shu originally didn't want to provoke these thugs, but when this man nauseatingly came over with bad intention to Li Man, he suddenly burned with anger and wanted to lift his foot to kick that skinny man's crotch. Li Man hurriedly held him back. These guys in front of them clearly weren't good guys, but the most troublesome one was definitely this skinny man clustered by a dozen burly lycox men. She's afraid Li Shu would suffer losses. This gentleman, may we trouble you to make a way for us to walk? Li Man tried her best to be as courteous as possible while wishing there would be people who see the scene and help them report to the government official or something. That's right, doesn't the vegetable market not have someone to maintain order? Lady, where do you want to go? The day is still young, how about we sit down together in my residence? This scholar will serve lady carefully, I'll make sure to make lady very comfortable. The skinny man didn't just block their way, but he also stretched his bony hand to grab onto Li Man's. Li Shu's blood's boiling, he pulled Li Man and shielded her with his body. He resolutely lifted his foot and swung it directly to the man's face. The man was kicked to the ground. He stretched his hand out and felt the bump swelling on his face, his mouth spitted out blood mixed with saliva. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 207, Distressed, 1. Chapter 207, Distressed, 1. Li Man jumped in fright, looking at the thin man wailing and spitting out blood and saliva. His painful complexion turned hideous as he roared at his servants. Damn you all dead servants, all of you are just standing there even after seeing this father got beaten? This father will strip off your skin first thing when I get back home. Once the cursing was shouted, all of the rough servants became like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey, and one after another attacked and jumped on Li Shu. Li Shu, quickly run! Li Man's heart thumped wildly and almost went out of her throat. Looking at Li Shu's face full of anger, taking a posture of wanting to risk his own life, she hastily grabbed his sleeve, dragging him to run to the city gate. They both would only lose everything if they fight. As expected, those people were not to be trifled with as someone already ran to their side and blocked their way out. About a dozen of thugs encircled them from all four sides, wanting to catch an easy prey and let their young master to handle them. Li Man was extremely nervous. The pastor was someone who was protected, and this was actually the first time she experienced firsthand a dire strait of being intercepted by hoodlums. She held on tight to Li Shu's sleeve while her legs seemed to tremble a bit. Don't be afraid. Li Shu held her hand tightly and consoled her in a soft voice, protecting her while retreating back little by little, until they were cornered by the walls. He suddenly felt a wooden pole at the corner of the wall that was put by someone. He picked it up and swung it to the thugs enclosing them. This one swing caused a few of the thugs to retreat back. But when Li Shu stopped, they immediately got back to their place. Some even grabbed a few stools and steelyards from the nearby vendors. They really wanted to hit them. Li Man was scared to death, but she still exerted her all to not show it on her face, to the extent that she followed Li Shu and grabbed another wooden pole and tightly held it in her hands. She thought that even if she couldn't help anything, she still shouldn't be a burden to Li Shu. "Little lady, you want to fight with us? Ha ha ha, how much strength can your tiny hands exert? Looking at Li Man's appearance holding the wooden pole with a fighting posture, those burly fellows who intended to fiercely fight all laughed wickedly in ridicule. "That's right, I see that you still have a lot of energy to serve our young lord." Ouch! The skinny man who was supported by someone looked at those fellows that still had the gall to seduce his beloved woman, so he immediately stepped forward in anger and kicked them down while raining out obscene language. He then pointed his bony finger to Li Man and Li Shu. "Get that young lady and give her to this father to go back home. Don't you dare to hurt even a hair on her body. As for this man, this father will give him to you. Beat him for this father, beat him to death." Yes. Those thugs listened to his command and didn't dare to delay the time anymore. They one by one lifted their tools and struck Li Shu. Li Shu's double fist couldn't rival four hands. T/N, one person couldn't fight many person. Although his strength was big and he usually liked to fight, but he nevertheless couldn't be compared to those burly and trained men. So in just a few moments, his body couldn't endure their attacks anymore. Li Man also gripped the wooden pole in her hand and swung it to one of the thug, but her strength was really too small, so when the pole struck that burly solid-muscled body, they only felt a tickle. The pole was snapped broken as they paid no heed to Li Man's attack, and even captured her like a small chick. "Bring her." The skinny man saw that Li Man was caught. His heart was tickled with joy as he rubbed his hands and instructed the hooligans. Li Man was flung at the burly man's shoulder. Her hands and feet simultaneously kicked and hit around as she watched helplessly that her attempts were all for naught. She became anxious, and suddenly bowed her head, directly biting at the man's ear in a death grip. That burly man finally struck with pain. He instinctively threw Li Man to the ground. "Ah!" Li Man cried out in pain. Her whole body ached all over when she tumbled with the ice-cold hard surface of the ground. All of the internal organs of her body felt like they were about to burst out. Li Shu heard her shout and looked at Li Man on the ground. His pair of eyes suddenly became red, grasping the pole and sending out an insane swing towards those bastards. After a while, he made a bloody path and ran in panic to support Li Man. But when he just wanted to stretch his hand out, the person behind him grabbed a stool and wanted to ruthlessly smash it on his body. "No, don't." This scene was seen by Li Man. Her stomach shrunk in fear. Li Shu groaned in a low voice and fell down, and Li Man embraced him in a flurry. "Wife, cough, are you okay?" Li Shu only said a sentence when he spitted out a mouthful of blood. Li Man's hand trembled as she covered his mouth, afraid that he would spit out more blood. "Okay, I'm okay, don't speak anymore." "Wife." Li Shu's expression was like he wanted to cry. "I let you suffer grievances, I really have no use." Li Man hugged him tightly, looking at his bloody nose and swollen face while the corner of his mouth was stained with dark blood. She was crumpled in distress as she shook her head. "No, you're really brave." Li Shu looked at her, and he felt even more distressed. "Wife, I won't let you suffer anything. I believe you." Li Man's finger blocked the corner of his mouth. She didn't want Li Shu to say anything anymore. She was very afraid, looking at the crimson-red blood inside his mouth threatening to spill out. "What are you guys doing just standing there? Hurry, take the beauty and give her to this father." The skinny man suddenly was filled with anger as he was looking at the two people embracing each other in one place. Li Shu's pair of eyes became red once again. He struggled to stand up, but Li Man hugged him in place. "Don't move." Li Shu was a bit dumbfounded as he listened to Li Man talking with the thin man. "Gentlemen, don't you want me? Why the need to handle it this way? What? Beauty's meaning is. The thin man heard Li Man and immediately asked while beaming with joy. A forcibly picked melon is not sweet, T/N, if a CH isn't meant to be, it's no use trying to force it to happen. If you really want to use this boorish and rude method to capture me, I also won't submit to you like a good child. Moreover, he's my husband. Suppose you really want to beat him to death, I dare to vow on my life, if I don't kill you 100 times over, then I wouldn't be worthy to be called human anymore. Li Man stared with her eyes open widely at him. Li Shu trembled inside. Such a gentle and lovely woman living inside the protection of him and the other brothers, she was even so timid and overcautious, she unexpectedly could speak out in such a stern and imposing manner. The thin man was also clearly dumbfounded by her. Then what does beauty suggest? That release my husband, I'll go with you. Li Man bluntly said. Wife. Li Shu held Li Man back, the blue veins on his forehead stood out. Even if I have to die, I won't give you up to that swine of a man. You fool. Li Man looked at him in distress. If you die, your brothers would be worried to death. Moreover, I also don't want you to die. Wife. The rim of Li Shu's eye suddenly dropped a crystal clear tear mixed with blood. Wife, I'm gonna risk my life and. Hush. Li Man once more covered his mouth, preventing the following words to get out, and glued a warm and soft lips on his swollen cheek. From the other's perspective, they only seemed like kissing, reluctant to part with each other. The wives who were buying vegetables at the side blushed shyly and turned their faces. On the other hand, the skinny men along with those thugs' eyeballs felt painful the more they looked at them, wishing that they could immediately drag and ravage Li Man. However, only Li Shu, at this moment, opening his big eyes and staring at Li Man with a dumbfounded expression, she said. Hear me, all right? Li Man supported herself and slowly stood up. Li Shu nodded his head, N. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 208 Distressed 2. Chapter 208 Distressed 2. The bony man looked at them impatiently. Little beauty, is it enough? Aren't you coming? This father doesn't want to play hard with you. Why so anxious? If you want to play hard, why not just beat me to death now? Li Man was also angry and used this kind of manner for the first time to talk to someone. Who would have thought, when the skinny man heard her, he looked up to see her beautiful face, although angry, but her eyes were sparkling brilliantly, her cheeks flushed red, complementing her tender crimson lips. She looked even more beautiful that he can't help but laugh. This father didn't know that beauty is so fiery, talking to this father like that. All right, hurry and say goodbye to your husband. After you become mine, this father won't treat you unfairly. Don't you have any better thing to say? Li Man let go of Li Shu and slowly walked to the skinny man. You come over with me. Oh? The bony man was curious, looking at Li Man going to the pork vendor. What do you want to do? My husband is hurt like this, I want to buy for him 2 gene of pork for him to bring back home and nourish his body with, can I? Li Man turned and glared furiously to the skinny man. The skinny man immediately laughed. You can. This father get his wife, then I'll give him 2 gene of pork. It's really worth it. Worth it. Give me silver. Li Man chased the crowd away in a bad mood. Silver? This father doesn't use silver to buy things. Take the silver out. Li Man shouted in a stern voice, making the skinny man pause for a while. Looking at her pair of fiery and beautiful eyes, he suddenly felt an unbearable itch. He then busily grabbed some silver from his chest. Taking advantage of the time when the skinny man searching for silver from his chest pocket and the butcher preparing to collect the payment, Li Man abruptly seized 2 bone-cutting cleavers from the vendor. Not waiting for those 2 people's reaction, she quickly aimed the bony man's neck using one cleaver, while the other aiming at his crotch. Hear this, grandmother, call your dogs to scram immediately. Otherwise, this grandma will remove your head and your number 2 at the same time. That skinny man was stupefied in his spell, but he still grinned cheekily and cracked a joke with Li Man. Li Man's hand this time wasn't soft, she exerted some strength on the saliver on his neck. The sharp edge of the cleaver pushed against his skin and left a blood trail. The frightened him immediately shouted like an animal, "You crowd of good for nothing, you're still not." When he still hadn't finished his sentence, Li Shu had long ago ran over to their place. Li Shu swung his arms to the skinny man's back, and then took over the cleavers from Li Man's hands and shouted angrily, "You son of a bitch! You dare to rob this father's wife, this father will now cut your life." Saying this, he truly used the knife and severed the skinny man's arm. Immediately, the skinny man roared in pain just like a slaughtered pig. Li Man hurriedly gave Li Shu a meaningful glance, afraid that he will really kill someone, so she only said, "Are you still not telling your dogs to scram? Scram, scram. All of you scram far away for this father." The bony man cried without tears from the severe pain. Each and every one of those thugs looked at each other in dismay because they didn't know what to do best. "Quickly scram!" The man's thigh was pressed with the cleaver, and he immediately roared madly to those thugs. When those burly men saw that Li Shu would really use the sharp cleaver and cut up their master, they scattered right away and flee through the back gate. Li Shu brought Li Man while keeping his grip on the skinny man to the main gate because he was afraid those men were still waiting for them in ambush. Therefore, he didn't immediately release this evil man, but rather brought him until they went outside of the market. Looking at the guy's pale face, Li Shu immediately pushed him aside while grabbing Li Man's hand. Both of them ran on the road leading out of the market. The two people both ran until they arrived at the foot of the mountain. Li Man can't keep on running anymore, so she sat down on the ground, paralyzed, kneading on her tight lower abdomen, while her little mouth desperately gasping for breath. Li Shu looked everywhere and found that no one chased after them until here, so he simply laid down on the ground and panted hard too. "Li Shu, are you okay?" Li Man turned her body and asked worriedly. Li Shu narrowed his eyes and looked at Li Man, but he only breathed roughly without saying anything. Li Man suddenly cried in panic, reaching out her hand and took hold of his face. "Li Shu, say something, you can't die, ah. Wife." Li Shu gripped her hand and stuck it to his own cheek. How are you feeling?" Li Man couldn't bear seeing Li Shu hurt grievously. She looked around to find something else that could be a cart so she can push him back home. "Wife, I'm okay, don't cry." Looking at Li Man shedding her tears, Li Shu abruptly sat up and stretched his hand to help her rub away her tears. Li Man paused for a while. "Are you really alright?" "I'm really cough. When Li Shu forced himself to sit up, he coughed 2 times, but luckily there's no blood coming out with it. Li Man didn't dare to neglect him and hurriedly went to support him. "Li Shu, can you still walk?" "I'll support you, we should go home right now." She couldn't just wait here, those people could still chase them down. "Wife, I'm alright, I can walk." Li Shu felt pain all over his body, but he didn't rest. He could still walk even if he would exert himself, but he felt distressed for Li Man. He wanted to carry her home on his back, but he really didn't have any energy left. Thus, 2 people supported each other while crossing over mountain after mountain to their home. As a result of the fierce fight, both of them were already exhausted of their energy. Moreover, the mountain road was difficult to pass through, so they walked very slowly. The sun began to set to the back of the mountain when they finally arrived at the village gate and met with Li Mo and Li Yan. Because they came back late, Li Mo and Li Yan was worried and decided to go out and search for them. When they saw the 2 people walking slowly while supporting each other, Li Mo and Li Yan's heart trembled and promptly realized that they had met with a mishap. "Third brother." The 2 men shouted in unison and ran to the village gate with a fast pace. "Elder brother, second brother." Seeing his 2 brothers, Li Shu's taut mind and body immediately slacked off. His whole body became unstable and almost slid down from Li Man's body. Li Man hurriedly supported him. At this time, Li Mo and Li Yan came over. Li Mo supported Li Shu while Li Yan hugged Li Man in his worry. "What happened?" Li Mo was shocked looking at Li Shu's face full of bruises and blood. Li Shu waved his hand. Go home first, then we can talk. He turned his head and looked at Li Man. When he saw that she was in Li Yan's embrace, his heart could finally settle down. Both of Li Man's legs were still shaking, not only because of the fear she felt, but also because of the long and difficult road she walked that she felt really tired right now. As a result, when Li Yan wanted to carry her in his embrace, she for the first time didn't struggle and even softly said, "Thank you." Stupid. What are you thanking me for? Looking at her like this, Li Yan felt both heartache and anger. What happened? You were still all right this morning when you went out. Go home first. Li Mo saw that Li Shu can't keep up anymore, so he just carried him on his back. Just like this, 4 people went to their home together. There's only little 5 at home. At this time, his small figure was standing under the eaves, looking at the entrance with anxiety in his heart. When he finally saw a man's figure coming, he shouted with joy, "Big brother, second brother, has third brother and sister come back home?" But when he approached them and looked at their situation, the little guy's heart sunk at once. What happened to third brother and sister? Go back to the room, Li Mo ordered. Little 5 immediately ran to the west room and lit the oil lamp for more light. Li Mo put Li Shu on the Kong bed. "Third, you sleep now, I'll go and find doctor." "Big brother, I'm okay." Li Shu pulled back Li Mo and looked at Li Yan carrying Li Man inside. Li Yan put Li Man at the further side of the Kong bed. Li Man followed by leaning on the corner of the walls, slightly closing her eyes. Her mind can't recover its calmness for a long time. "Third, what really happened today?" Li Yan asked. Li Shu took a glimpse at Li Man, slowly retelling how they ran into a local tyrant that wanted to snatch Li Man away. The 3 brothers all heard with a wooden look. They didn't expect that there would be such a thing happening in broad daylight. Li Shu blamed himself. "This was all my fault for being unable to protect wife. I should just die. I'm useless. Third, Li Mo used the leftover liniment that he used before and rubbed it on Li Shu while gently consoling him. "It's not a problem. It's already good that you guys can come back." Third brother. Li Yan also bent over and pat Li Shu's shoulder. "Don't say things like this. Me and older brother were the ones who should be ashamed. We're not there when you met with this kind of accident. It's already lucky that you and Man Air both can come back safely, otherwise." Li Yan anxiously looked at Li Man, but then found out that she was leaning on the corner of the wall, her head slightly drooping down while softly breathing evenly, clearly sleeping. Those several brothers all looked at each other helplessly. Li Shu breathed in some air, and with a distressed sound he said, "Wife must be dead tired right now. Today, it was thanks to her. If it's not because of her, I'm afraid that I can't even come back home." Thinking when Li Man took the cleaver and pressed it against that dirty swine, and when she rudely calling herself grandmother like a shrew woman, Li Shu snorted and laughed, affecting the wound cut on the corner of his mouth. Then he shouted, "Ouch, ouch. In pain. Keep your voice down." Li Mo hurriedly muffled his mouth, but because he's afraid of hurting his brother, he only lightly covered his mouth. Li Shu busily kept his silence, but when he looked at Li Man once again, the smile on his face became filled with a stronger love. Listening to him talking like this, Li Mo and Li Yan were also shocked. They never expected that she could act shrewish in a crucial moment like that. Finally, Li Yan laughed softly. "It's not weird, it's just like her." "Pooh." Li Shu looked at him like looking at a ghost. "Second brother, what are you saying? Wife usually is just like a little timid kitten. Don't say it anymore. I was shocked by her today. However, Thinking about it, Li Shu laughed again. Actually, her furious and shrewish appearance was really cute too. As a matter of face, Li Shu didn't need to say this because both Li Mo and Li Yan were already imagining the scene where Li Man ruthlessly made a scene many times over. Their hearts were filled with both love and pain. "Big brother, I'll carry her to the other room." Li Yan wanted to hold her, afraid that she wouldn't get a good night's sleep here. Li Mo busily said, "No need, just leave her to sleep in this Kong bed." Li Yan paused a bit hearing him say, "Her courage is small. Those things happened to her today. She would be afraid if she wakes up tonight and find herself alone. Li Yan thought that it was right. He arranged his bunk slightly and gently put Li Man on it, slowly removing her shoes and socks, then covered her with a quilt. Big brother, I'll go and heat some water and help her wipe. Li Mo nodded. He saw that the wounds on Li Shu's body all covered with medicine. He then let him took off his clothes. Li Shu always said that he's alright, that his wounds were only superficial, but Li Mo insisted that he wanted to give a thorough check, afraid that he would have invisible injury. At last, failing to persuade his big brother, Li Shu helplessly took off his upper garment, revealing a wide red and swollen bruise at his back. Li Mo was alarmed and ordered little Five to hold the lamp nearer. He found out that the red and swollen face had a startling traces of blood. However, Li Shu himself didn't pay it any mind. I don't know which bastard sneaked an attack on my back. After saying this, he suddenly thought when Li Man flung by one of the thugs straight to the ground. He hurriedly said, Big brother, quick, take a look at wife, she also received an injury. Ah! Li Mo's stomach tightened, his hands trembled a little. Where did she got hurt? I don't know, you hurry and take a look. Li Shu took the ointment on Li Mo's hand to little Five to help him spread it on his back. Li Mo lifted the quilt on Li Man's body while trembling in fear. Seeing at her deathly pale small face, his heart was tugged tightly. At this time, Li Yan brought over a tub of hot water as he looked at Li Mo's trembling finger wanting to undo Li Man's clothes, so he hurriedly came over. Big brother, what happened? Third brother said that Li Man was hurt. Li Mo tried to untie her belt several times but without success, his forehead perspired with worry. Li Shu said with a low voice, that bastard son of a bitch flung wife to the ground, she of course got hurt because of that. Big brother, let me help. Looking at Li Mo's clumsy movement, Li Yan put the tub of water on a stool and busily pushed him away. His slender fingers lightly pulled thrice and took off Li Man's outerwear, revealing a single silver pink doo-doo. T/N, ancient Chinese female undergarment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 209, Brothers. Chapter 209, Brothers. Feeling uncomfortable, the lethargic Li Man knitted her elegant eyebrows tightly. She hummed several times and turned her body to lie on her stomach on the Kong bed. Her bundled hair had long ago already let loose, spilling gently on her soft body and jaded neck. Her slender body was illuminated with a soft yellow light from the oil lamp, giving out a fair porcelain luster, just like an exquisite fine and polished jade. In a blink of an eye, the inside of the room became frighteningly quiet, the thick and heavy breathing filling the air with ambiguous atmosphere. Li Yan turned his head quickly as he busily let little Five bring the oil lamp over. The light shined on Li Man's body and the wounds can be clearly seen. Her right arm was red and swollen. Furthermore, more than half of her right shoulder, all the way down to her back, was bruised here and there. Li Mo's deep black eyes tightened as he watched Li Yan's fingers slowly taking off her trousers. Looking at the inside, that snow-white and fragile buttocks were also bruised. All of their eyes turned red. Have to die. How? Li Shu leaned on the Kong bed's head, although he actually didn't have much strength left to crawl near. When he heard his eldest brother's low curse, he couldn't help but anxiously asked. Li Yan's eyes were obscured with sorrow, but he tried to console his younger brother. It's only a little bit swollen, there wouldn't be too much that would hinder her. Luckily, we have some bruise ointment in the house, I'll go and grab it. Li Shu finally could ease his heart. Li Mo looked that third brother was exerting his body too much, so he hurriedly said, Third, you should wait a bit, I'll cook something for you. After eating some food then you can sleep well, All right. Li Shu wasn't sleepy, his body was only tired. Very quickly, Li Shu arrived at the west room. He searched the ointment from underneath Li Man's pillow. Li Mo also cooked a bowl of nice and warm rice gruel, which Li Shu ate with relish. Li Yan let little Five bring the oil lamp to the side as he gently helped Li Man apply some ointment on the bruised places. Didn't know if the effect of the ointment too strong, or Li Yan's touch that was too heavy. Li Man often groaned and hummed in discomfort, Li Mo couldn't see it anymore and directly came over. Second, give me that. Can your hand be more gentle than mine? Li Yan didn't lift his head while giving back a response in low voice. Li Mo paused for a bit. Li Shu was eating the gruel while saying, Big brother, let second brother do it. Your fingers were rough, big and strong. It's not suitable to do anything with medicine. You're applying the ointment on me was really hurting, you know? Oh. Li Mo gloomily furrowed his eyebrows. He blamed that he only did hard labor at ordinary times, that he can't really control his hand strength. Hearing Li Man groan 2 times more, he became more anxious. Second, can you be gentler? She looked like she's in pain. Of course she's in pain, her whole body is bruised. Even if I'm not applying the ointment, she would still groan. As Li Yan said this, his hands' movements weren't the least bit hesitating, fast and light, and in just a moment, all of her back was smeared with medicine. He leisurely gripped Li Man's trousers and wanted to strip it off completely. When Li Mo looked, his heart stopped for a second as he busily said, Second brother, don't. What? Li Yan lifted his head, nearly provoking his older brother. He put his strength a bit and Li Man's trouser was already pulled down until her thigh. Li Mo's expression became cold, but he immediately endured it down. Second, gentler. I know. Li Yan's slender fingers took a drop of ointment when suddenly, he glanced Little Five's wooden look, and at once his palm beat Little Five's head. Smelly boy, close your eyes. Little Five staggered and the oil lamp almost bumped with Li Man's body, frightening Li Yan as he quickly blocked it, and as a result, that small flame immediately went out. The dark and dim room was accompanied by Li Yan's hoarse and crude breath. Second brother. Little Five became panicked. Li Mo swiftly searched for the fire starter and relight the oil lamp. Second, are you okay? Li Yan spread open his hand. In the center of his right palm was a red mark with a broken skin, just a bit painful, so he didn't care about it. Nothing. Little Five, I told you to hold on to the lamp, not for you to see and make trouble. Little Five's mouth flattened, his heart felt very much wronged. Clearly eldest brother also looked. Isn't second brother himself looking right now? But because he's afraid of hurting second brother, he didn't dare to retort and only brought the oil lamp closer while closing his eyes. Give it to me. Looking at Little Five's grievous appearance, Li Mo offered himself. Elder brother, you should look after third brother. Li Yan didn't want Li Mo to have a try. Little Five also said, Elder brother, just attend to third brother, I can do this myself. Li Mo felt a bit embarrassed looking at Li Shu. After he finished his last bite, he passed over the bowl and chopstick to Li Mo. Elder brother, I'm full. 1 bowl and you're already full? There's some more at the pot. Li Mo said after receiving the empty bowl. Li Shu was really tired, so he wormed himself inside the quilt as he waved towards Li Mo. It's okay, I want to have a rest. Li Mo didn't urge him anymore and put the empty bowl on top of the rack. He then turned and walked to Li Yan's side, looking at his fingers crawling on Li Man's inner thigh. He can't help but pull a long face. Second brother, there's no bruise there. How do I know if I don't take a look? Li Yan's face wasn't red and his heart wasn't jumping as his fingers withdrew back. He said in a low voice, there's no wound here. Li Mo's 2 eyebrows twisted tightly as he stared angrily at Li Yan. Li Yan shrugged his shoulders, and used his strength to pull down Li Man's trouser completely. Li Mo's chest trembled as he shook his fists, almost pounding him down. Fortunately, Li Yan quickly pulled a thin blanket covering Li Man's whole body. Then he lifted his eyelids, unhurriedly looking at Li Mo. I just smeared the ointment on her body so she shouldn't wear clothes now. Oh. Li Mo's raised fist finally fell down. Li Yan's eyes were welling with taunt. He smirked with ridicule. What did you want to do just now, big brother? With those big fists, is it possible that you wanted to hit your second brother, me? Second brother, these 2 words, he deeply put a stress on them. Li Mo knew that he was the one in the wrong, so he looked at his brother with regret in his eyes. I'm sorry, big brother is too impulsive just now. It's still second that's more considerate. Li Yan's smile became deeper. Big brother doesn't need to blame yourself, you're just concerned about wife, so it's still within reason. It's just, is your second brother that kind of person who would take advantage of somebody's difficulties? Wife is already hurt like this, how can I have any idea to take her this cheaply? After hearing him, Li Mo became more ashamed. It's my own heart that's too narrow, misunderstanding second brother. Alright, little five, you can open your eyes now. At this moment, Li Yin packed up the ointment and lightly hit little five's head. Little five blankly said oh and opened his eyes, but the corner of his eyes unconsciously wanted to go to Li Man's side, like there's a magic power that attracted him, but he was hindered by older brother and second brother. He actually didn't have big courage to take a peek with those two nearby, so his heart became a mess instead. Li Mo also didn't want to pester with this topic anymore, so he only turned around and said, I'm going to get some water, you guys should rub your bodies clean and go to sleep, but... Little five, you go to sleep first. Li Yin ordered little five. Oh. Little five finally quickly gave a quick glance at Li Man, then with a guilty conscience, he squeezed himself into the bedding, tugging the quilt until it covered his head. Big brother. Li Yin followed behind Li Mo, and together they went inside the kitchen. What do you think about today's matter? Li Mo calmly raised his head to look at the boundless and indistinct dim light of the night. With this matter happening, the town outside the mountain definitely would spread wildly, and that vile man who heard third and wanted to snatch man air would naturally won't have any difficulty finding them. N. Li Yin nodded, his expression somber just like the night sky. Big brother, after 2 days, I'm gonna go to the town with you to find any news. Li Mo joined him, alright. However, don't let third brother and the others know about this. And man air too, her courage is small. I know. Li Yin answered in affirmation. In the dim night, the two brothers discussed for a while in a low voice, and after washing their faces and feet, they went back to the room together, taking their own place on the Kong bed. Because of this one night, Li Man also slept on the Kong bed. Li Mo and Li Yin were very conscious at the empty space beside her, trying their best not to touch her. However, at the middle of the night, unaware how, they heard off and on hic sobbing sounds that would tug at the anyone who heard it. T/N, I'd shit my pants if it's me. And sure enough, except for the deeply sleeping Li Shu and little five, Li Mo and Li Yin practically sprang to their feet at the same time. They both looked at each other a quick glance as their sights slowly fell to the small silhouette. That's right, the sobbing sounds that were just like kittens croon were indeed came from Li Man. It's just, she looked like she was still fast asleep and didn't know what she was doing. Li Yin hurriedly went to her side and softly calling out 2 times man air, extending his hand to stroke her face. Her cheeks were soaked with her tears. Girl, man air, Li Yin realized that she was inside a nightmare and hurriedly held her inside his embrace. Li Mo also moved around little five and walked over, touching her face gently and followed by lightly calling out, man air, wake up. Li Man was still inside the frightening nightmare where Li Shu was beaten, his whole body bleeding, gasping on his last breath, but she just stood there without any way out, calling out to the sky and earth uselessly. At this time, she heard Li Mo and Li Yan's voices so suddenly, just like a deity descending to human world to save her, she tried to stretch her hands and grab them in a flurry. Li Yan's one hand was holding her, while the other hand hastily seizing her little hand. Meanwhile, Li Mo's big palm firmly captured her other hand without losing time. Big brother! Li Man shouted with difficulty, and at the same time, her heavy eyelids finally opened. Inside the dim light, she could only saw a blurry figure in front of her. Although she's not able to see clearly, but when Li Man saw this figure she immediately knew that it was Li Mo. She suddenly threw herself hard inside his embrace. Big brother, quickly save Li Shu, he's gonna be beaten to death. Girl, don't be afraid, you're only having a nightmare. Li Yin stretched his hand and lightly stroked Li Man's back, gently consoling her. Li Yin? Sure enough, Li Man was still unable to move. Inside the dim night, she stared blankly and turned her head, seeing Li Yan's hazy outline and his pair of bright eyes. She called out with faint nasal sound like she wanted to cry again. Li Yan's heart became soft. Immediately, his whole body nestled to her back, both of his hands comforted her trembling shoulders. I'm here, don't be afraid. Li Man had just came back from her nightmare, so she was looking all around. Although the view was dim and hazy, but this place was unmistakably the West Room that she sweep every day, and also the place where her men slept. Li Shu? Li Man hastily asked with anxiety. Li Mo pointed to the Kong bed. He's sleeping. Li Man finally felt a bit of ease. Is he alright? He spitted out blood at noon. Does he has any internal injury? I'm gonna look for a doctor tomorrow. We should let him sleep now, don't wake him up. Li Yen whispered at her ear. A strand of delicate fragrance came from her body, mixing up with the herbal aroma from the ointment, they slowly winding around his nose, making him dizzy for a while. When he talked, he unconsciously stuck to her body. Hearing the tone of his speech, Li Shu wouldn't have heavy wounds, so Li Man's taut heart finally could let loose, her head leaning on Li Mo's bosom, not wanting to say anything anymore. Man air, go back to sleep. Li Mo raised his hand to signal Li Yen to move from the bed, then he slowly tucked Li Man inside the warm blanket. Li Man quickly felt weary again. She also received a big shock at noon. She was also struggling to fight with those ruffians. And so, she quickly fell deep into the slumberland, and this time, her sleep was free from anxiety. After Li Mo and Li Yen helped her to settle down, they each returned to their own bed to sleep. Passing a silent night, at the crack of dawn, Li Yen got up and busily cooked rice and bustled with household duties. Li Mo went alone to request for doctor. At the east room, from the 3 persons sleeping on the Kong bed, little Five was the first to wake up. He dazedly crawled up and looked at the deeply sleeping Li Man. His mind suddenly was gushing with a strange feeling. He felt a bit scared, especially because yesterday night he actually dreamed about her. Little Five. Li Shu, who slept heavily throughout the entire night, suddenly opened his eyes, feeling himself full of vigor from head to toe. When he just lifted his body to sit, he looked at Little Five staring at Li Man in a daze, so he called out to him. Little Five was startled. He turned his head and looked at Li Shu. Li Shu lifted one of his eyebrow. Feeling uncertain, he gave a quick glance at his brother. What? Are you crazy now? Ah! Little Five suddenly shouted, slipping down from the Kong bed, and without even wearing his outer garment, he quickly held his shorts and ran away. What happened? Li Shu can't help but stroke his face. Was his face beaten until it became so ferocious looking? Seeing Little Five looking at him just like looking at a ghost. Li Man straightened her legs from the quilt, changing to a more comfortable position. But when she's just about to lie down, the wounds on her back ached and she immediately went back to lying on her stomach. It's just, with her movements, the quilt on her back slid more than a half, revealing half of her small body. Wife, have you woke up? Li Shu busily abandoned his clothes and crawled over to her side. Li Shu? Li Man blinked her big eyes twice. How can you run to my bed? Li Shu had already arrived at her side, half kneeling, both hands supported his body, while his face was brimming with a smiling expression. You're the one who's on my bed. Ah. Li Man opened her eyes wide. Sure enough. Wife, Li Shu's line of vision swiftly moved from her face to her naked back and immediately shouted, those bastards, next time we meet, this father will definitely split them alive. Seeing a large area of her back had become purple, Li Shu was very distressed. He stretched his hand and lightly caressed. Is it painful? His slightly cold big palm touched her warm back, making her shivered a little and conscious of something wrong. She looked down to her flimsy undergarment slanting to one side and half of her body wasn't even covered, her back. After blanking for a while, Li Man wheezed and wrapped herself with the quilt. Seeing Li Shu's thoughtful expression staring blankly at her in a loss. She slept on the bed inside East Room, without any clothing, with only undergarment left. God, who's the one that did this? Wife, what happened with you? Are you hurting? Li Shu wanted to pull open her quilt and took a good look at her. Li Man felt endlessly embarrassed and awkward. She rigidly pulled the corner of the quilt. I'm okay, really, I only fell down and scraped my skin a bit. Really? Li Shu was still full of doubt, but second brother said that nothing's wrong yesterday night, so it should really be alright. However, his heart suddenly became depressed and angry. They should die, those abominable beasts. Otherwise, today would be our auspicious day to round the room, but Li Man was stupefied and she didn't know whether to laugh or cry facing this kind of Li Shu. Can it be that she also gained a profit from this misfortune? At least these few days she didn't need to feel anxious dealing with these men. Wife. Li Shu vented his wrath for a while, then he looked at Li Man's eyebrows drooping down. Grinning, he moved closer to her face and ingratiatingly asked, I've already seen your body, so I fear that we can't round the room today, then can we just push and choose another auspicious day? This was certainly good, but Li Man still couldn't nod her head to answer him. If she nod, it would look like she too eager on choosing an auspicious day for rounding the room. Alright, what inappropriate thing are you thinking about? Your body is already injured so heavily, just properly tend to your wound. Even though Li Man gave him an annoyed gaze, Li Shu was still grinning widely. He lifted his fist and pounded his chest twice with a smug look. See, my body is strong and sturdy, these superficial wounds don't count at all. Even if we round the room now, I would definitely have no problem. I'm just afraid that you. The more Li Man heard what he said, the more her face became scalding hot. It's still early morning. She hurriedly stretched her hands to close his perverted mouth. Don't talk rubbish anymore. Nevertheless, Li Shu's attention followed down to the inside of the flimsy undergarment. That pair of snowy white doves wanted to burst out. Her undergarment was fully filled with those swelling soft buns. His eyes darkened and his pair of hands reflexively wanted to grab onto them, liberating the bound-up pair of white doves free. Li Man anxiously pushed him away, covering herself with the quilt, and turned her back on him. All of a sudden, Li Shu can't see and also can't touch. This made Li Shu anxious, so he pulled Li Man's shoulder and pleaded with his puppy eyes, Wife, let me take a glance, just once, I promise not to stretch my hands. How can he say this kind of words? Li Man gripped the corners of the quilt tightly, annoyed with him. Li Shu, if you dare fool around, I'm gonna shout and call Big Brother. Li Shu became like a deflated balloon all of a sudden, shriveling his body down. Looking at her white neck, he murmured, then, alright, I won't look today. When it's time to round the room you still have to yield to me. I won't allow you to hide it from me then. He talked like she owed him. Li Man didn't want to care about this overbearing and unbridled him. When she heard the rustling sound of wearing clothes, her calmness finally came back again. Li Shu wore his clothes and went out the room but quickly came back again, but he was only standing at the door. Wife, second brother already cooked breakfast. Do you want to get up or eat here? Her body was aching and sore and lying down wasn't possible, but if she wanted to get up, where's her clothes then? She looked all around and discovered her clothes was thrown on the small stool at the corner of the wall, so she said to Li Shu, can you help me take my clothes there? Oh. Li Shu came inside and grabbed all of the piled up clothes with his one big hand, but he didn't directly give it to Li Man and instead smelled it then laughed, as expected, it's really fragrant. What are you doing? Li Man glared at him ferociously with her face red like a boiled shrimp. But Li Shu just didn't pay attention to it and gave the clothes to her, explaining, I heard second brother said that female's body is fragrant. I didn't believe him, but now I 100% believe it. Wife is the most fragrant, even her used clothes would cause anyone to have a reverie. Indeed it was Li Yan, that scoundrel. Li Man ruthlessly bit her lower lip and said to Li Shu, don't learn from your second brother. All day thinking about woman, that rogue. And? Li Shu didn't understand, is it not good to learn from second brother? Second brother was really well received by women in Goddess Ravine. Practically everyone all loved him. What are you talking about behind my back? This time, Li Yan came over from the door with light sound. Li Man lifted her eyes and looked at him, seeing him reclining at the doorframe, his gaze fixed on her. Her heart jumped. Sure enough, you shouldn't talk about someone behind their back. She busily hung down her head and assumed an appearance of not knowing anything. Who would have thought? Li Shu, this blabbermouth, betrayed her at once and even poked fun at Li Yan. Second brother, wife said that I shouldn't learn from you. You too, don't say those kind of things again to me. I'm a good man, don't lead me astray. Li Man was startled. Li Shu, his mouth should get a thrashing. Li Yan stared at Li Man's rigid back. He laughed teasingly, really? What did I say to you that led you astray? Li Shu pulled the corners of his mouth. Looking at second brother's expression, he busily said, second brother, you mustn't bully wife. Anyway, you talked to me that females are fragrant. Second brother, how can you say this when you haven't touched a woman before? Pooh dash, Li Man almost spurted. Li Shu's counterattack was too good. Li Yan, you dirty embryo, I want to see if you have any words to say. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 210, Fragrant. Chapter 210, Fragrant. The surrounding atmosphere became stiff for a while. Li Man hung her head down while imagining Li Yan's embarrassed appearance, but she didn't expect Li Yan to sneer and laugh lightly, breaking up the quietness. Third, what do you want me to answer, MN? Hearing his second brother, Li Shu became happy and grabbed Li Yan's shoulder. He asked as if looking for a new gossip, second brother, who is it? Is it Newton? Or is it another young lady? Do I know her? Wow. Li Man, who was sitting at the Kong bed, straightened up her body when she heard his question, wanting to hear what kind of girl this evildoer brought calamity to. Is it that beautiful and weak mutant? Suddenly, Li Man's heart became filled with uneasiness. Li Yan's burning gaze was fixed on Li Man's body. Looking at her hanging down her head while biting her lips nervously, as if her fur was fluffed in anger, his right eyebrow slightly raised and her mouth laughed softly in amusement. Woman, of course I had met them before. But how much I interact with them, man, you should know clearer than anyone about this, right? Crack, Li Shu stared foolishly for a while. Li Man abruptly raised her head, staring blankly in a daze with a muddle-headed expression on her face. Li Yan only gazed at her with a slight smile. All right, don't look at me like that. It's early morning. Third, you shouldn't make her embarrassed. That's right, you haven't worn your clothes. After we eat breakfast, I'll help you change your plaster. It would be inconvenient if you have to wear then take it off again, so just wait here, I'll bring your breakfast in a minute. After saying this, he turned back and walked away as if there's nothing happening. Li Shu abruptly turned her head and gazed at Li Man with a complicated expression. Wife, when did you let second brother have a try? Me? Li Man wanted to argue but was instead made speechless. If she said that she didn't let him take a chance, that would sound too fake, and if she said that she let him, then she couldn't just say it out loud. And also, Li Yan telling Li Shu that woman's body is fragrant, surely was said before she came inside this house, right? Then it'd basically have no relation with her. But that scoundrel could quibble and turned the topic over, making Li Shu targeted herself instead. She was treated unjustly. She only wanted to watch for fun but was unexpectedly pulled as a scapegoat that can only oblige to Li Yan's cunning foxy trick. Wife, you're being partial. Li Shu's already discontented self walked over to the bedside, his fingers all of a sudden poked at her quilt with grievance. You let second brother took his chance, why don't you let me then? Why are you hiding yourself inside the quilt? Oh, that's right, second brother helped you smear the medicine yesterday night, he already looked at you naked. Your second brother? Smear medicine? Li Man's startled eyeballs looked like they wanted to fall off. How about your big brother? Li Shu curled his lips. Does big brother look like someone who can deal with medicine? His hand strength is too big. If he helped you smearing the medicine, he would only give you more wounds. Li Man was speechless. Isn't this thing should be done by Li Mo? At this moment, Li Yan came with a basin of hot water. His handsome face smiled with eagerness. Come, wife, you should wash first. Li Yan glared at Li Shu, who was still sulking at the side. What are you poking her for? Go and get wife's breakfast here. I know. Li Shu gave Li Yan a glance. His brother unexpectedly already ate wife's tofu, so hateful. Li Yan wrung the towel dry and passed it over to Li Man. Here. Li Man's pair of hands were gripping the corners of the quilt without moving. Li Yan laughed lightly, his line of sight gradually removed from her face, then he let out a smiling groan. Oh, I forgot, you're naked under the quilt, it won't be convenient. Alright, come, let me give you a wash. He walked one step forward, not caring about Li Man's squeak of rejection. His palm was already stroking the back of her head while the other was opening the towel, and then using a bit of power to rub her small face. Li Man struggled to get free. ferociously glaring at his hateful look, treating her face like some table. How can he use that kind of strength when wiping her? Let me see. Li Yan was still enjoying himself to the fullest, slanting his head while carefully sizing her tender cheeks up. Suddenly, he stretched his hand and rubbed the corner of her eye. Yo, there's an eye booger here, you timid kitten, let this husband give you a rub. His rough fingers rubbed the corner of her eyes, but the strength he used was still big. Li Man became like a roly-poly toy, shaking and swaying at the same place. After that, Li Yan soaked the towel in the hot water and wrung it dry again. Turn your head around, I'll help you rub your neck. No need. Li Man finally returned her consciousness while roaring at him. Eye booger? Timid kitten? You're the timid kitten. Li Yan looked in askance, staring at her with a bit of disgust. How many days have you not taken a bath already? I already took a bath 2 days ago. Li Man howled, thinking why she didn't take a bath 2 days ago. Her ears were flushed red with shame. Oh, no wonder, your body is all sour smelling. Li Yan pinched his nose and put down the towel on the Kong bed. Alright, look at you who can't tell good from bad. I'm too lazy to serve you, so you should wash yourself. Li Man raised her voice in fury. Who let you serve? Moreover, can his rough rubbings be called serving someone? He clearly played her like a toy. He played her for such a long time. What happened? When Li Shu brought over 2 bowls of rice gruel in, he heard Li Man's huffing and puffing in annoyance, so he can't help but look at Li Yan in uncertainty. Second brother, why are you provoking wife? Ah? Am I provoking you? Li Man turned and stared at Li Man with innocence. Li Man straightforwardly ignored him and just directly stretched her hands to take the rice gruel from Li Shu, but when her snow-white arms were laid bare, she immediately withdrew back. Damn it, I became muddle-headed because of this scoundrel. She hasn't wear any clothes. Li Shu, can you go out for a bit? I want to change my clothes. Why? You have to change the dressing after a while, Li Shu said. We can talk about it later. Li Man's complexion was gloomy and dark already. Li Shu also knew how to be tactful at times, so he said hurriedly, second brother, let's go. Li Yan looked at Li Man snorting from her nose with a smile, so he turned and followed his brother out the room. After the 2 men walked out, Li Man sighed deeply. She didn't dare to delay and quickly flung the quilt, wearing her clothes in a rush. After she just wore her clothes, she already heard Li Mo's voice from outside. How is she? Has she woken up yet? Li Shu answered, she's changing clothes inside, it looks like there's no heavy wound on her. Then, it's alright. Li Mo wiped the sweat on his face and said. Li Yan asked, so the doctor isn't in his house? They said that last night at Changpu town, there's someone who broke their leg bone by falling down from the mountain because of carelessness. Li Mo answered. Oh. Li Shu hummed and looked at his big brother's heavy complexion, so he consoled him, that's alright, big brother, aren't I and wife just fine, but... Man said that you spitted out a lot of blood, big brother is afraid if you have any internal injuries, Li Mo said worriedly. But Li Shu didn't mind it a bit, I only spitted out a mouthful of blood, hee, it might just be because my anger is too plenty recently, so spitting out a bit isn't a bad idea, might as well relieve some internal heat. How can he just say it like this? Li Mo lightly looked askance at him, hoping that it might really be just like what he said. We'll see. Today you should take a rest. If there's really something wrong, then big brother will bring you to Changpu town. How can there be anything wrong? Li Shu laughed. Big brother really liked to make a fuss over nothing. At this time, Li Man opened the door and went out wearing yesterday's clothes. There were already some wrinkles on it, furthermore, there were some plasters on her back and behind that were brushing all over. When they went back yesterday, the sky already became dark, so all of them didn't see clearly at her situation. This time looking at her, Li Mo and Li Yan could imagine how Li Man was flung to the ground by some strong man. That time, wife surely felt hurt. Man are you alright? Li Mo was feeling distressed for her. He walked over, wanting to look the red and swollen bruises on her body, but he can't be unbridled in front of his younger brother's presence. Li Man softly laughed, I'm alright, it's not hurting anymore. It'd be a wonder if you don't feel hurt. Who's the one that mumbled all night last night? Li Yan fixed a stare on her. Li Man's face sunk. Even though I mumbled, you're still sleeping. Second brother is only worried about you. Li Mo busily said. With Li Mo's explanation, Li Man's expression then relaxed. Li Yan was really depressed. Why can't this girl distinguish between good and bad? Even Big Brother could see that he was just being worried. Alright, we should all go eat breakfast. Li Yan felt a bit irritated, so he turned and went inside the kitchen without looking at Li Man. Man air. Li Mo looked at Li Man gently. Can you walk? How about I take your meal to the room? I already gave her breakfast. Li Shu said. Li Man hummed and said, I almost forgot, I put it on the windowsill. She came back to the room and immediately took the rice gruel on the windowsill. She brought it and sat down on the Kong bed to eat slowly. Li Mo stood at the door, looking at her eating the rice gruel until finished, then he finally came over with a genial smile on his face. I'll ladle one more bowl for you. No need, I'll go there myself, she said as she slid out of the Kong bed. Slowly. Li Mo was afraid that she would feel pain, so he stretched his hands to carefully protect her from her side. Li Man smiled looking at him like this. It isn't serious at all, you also haven't eaten yet, quickly eat With a twist of her body, she walked outside to the kitchen. After eating breakfast, Li Yan shouldered a hoe to their family's field. It has been raining for several days before, they still had to loosen up the soil, then they can finally sow some seeds. Li Mo brought Big Black and Small Yellow to go outside together. At home, Li Man hid herself inside her room, untying her clothes, and took out the salve that was left by Li Yan. With some difficulties, she applied the medicine on herself. When she was smearing it on her buttocks, her face turned burning hot. Did Li Yan smear the ointment like this too last night? Wife. Li Shu's voice often came through the next room. Come here quickly, little Five is too stupid, the medicine went inside my eyes. At the east room, little Five looked at his third brother with despise. Third brother, you should just say it directly if you want sister to apply the medicine for you. So you found out? Li Shu laughed without restraint, beating little Five's head. Little Five, be good and go look whether wife is alright or not. Just say that my body's hurt, and you can't apply medicine. I don't care. Who just swore at me saying that I'm stupid? Li Shu paused for a bit. You smelly child, you dare not listening to your third brother already? What do I get? Little Five squinted his eyes menacingly. Li Shu glared back at him. You speak. I want your wooden sword. Little Five not showing weakness at all. You? Li Shu glowered at him and said, if you want it, then ask your second brother to make one for you. I only want yours. Little Five said. Li Shu hated to part with that wooden sword of his, so he could only settle for the second best. Then, I'll beg second brother to give you 2 swords. Add 1 slingshot to that. Little Five seized the chance and raised the price. Deal. Li Shu ruthlessly beat Little Five's head. Little Five wrinkled his brows. Ouch. And then grinned widely. Contract completed. After that, he turned around and ran to the west room, standing at the door and cutely said, Sister, do you want Little Five to help you? Li Man already plastered the medicine nicely and just waiting for the salve to dry down and wear her clothes again. No need, you should go and help your third brother apply his medicine. I don't know what happened with third brother, it looks like his body is hurting. Little Five lied without any remorse. His body hurts? Li Man was astonished. Wasn't he just now still making trouble and calling me out? So it's really because Little Five can't apply medicine and now his body hurts, so he has to find other method to vent? Oh, I'll go there in a minute. Li Man busily wore a clean clothes and went out. After arriving at the east room, she saw Li Shu naked top. He only wore a strip of underpants while leaning on the window, staring blankly outside with the ointment in his hand. Li Shu, where are you hurting? She hurriedly went over and asked. Li Shu lifted his eyes and gazed at her brilliant and enchanting face that was scared with bruises, making him even more worried and anxious. Wife, I'm a little hurt. Where are? Li Man sat down on the Kong bed and anxiously asked. Cough, have I made wife worried? Li Shu's heart was now feeling conscience-stricken and happy at the same time. Wife, don't worry, I won't be harmed, but can you help me apply the medicine? Big brother said this medicine is really effective. If we rub a few times then I will be cured. All right. Li Man took the small jar. She saw that his face was already smeared with it, so the most important one should be his back, she said. You turn over now. Li Shu was very obediently turned his body over, leaning on the windowsill to let Li Man apply the medicine comfortably. Li Man half kneeling near his body, 2 fingers dipped in the small jar then rubbed lightly on the bruised parts of his back. Li Shu's whole body quivered as he was concealing the feeling of her soft gentle hands slowly twisting the softest part of his heart, like an itchy thorn. There's some pain, but it was also accompanied by an immense joy. He didn't want to stop, so much so that he wanted to groan because of this pleasant feeling. However, Li Man thought that he felt pain instead. Her hands' movements became all the more gentle, coaxing him softly. Please bear with it a bit more, it would surely be better in a while. And yet, the more she acted gentle, the more he became unable to endure. His groans became louder. Wife, use more power. But is he becoming muddle-headed because of pain? Li Man became nervous. She put down the ointment and said, It can't be like this, Li Shu. I'll accompany you to find a doctor. Your injuries need to be properly looked, just in case. If there's any internal injury, then what? After saying this, she hurriedly slid down the Kong bed. Li Shu immediately turned around and grabbed her. Wife, don't go. Li Shu, where's your clothes? Quickly put on some and She hadn't finished her words when Li Shu abruptly pulled her to the Kong bed again, pressing her down heavily. Ack! Li Man's back suddenly felt as if it was a pincushion, the ache piercing through her skin. Li Shu flustered and busily turned her upward. Wife, did I just hurt you? NNGH. Li Man sat up with difficulty, rubbing her small waist while glaring ferociously at him. What are you doing? Why did he pull me down? Li Shu's face couldn't become more redder than now. He whispered under his breath with guilt. Wife, I'm almost crazy wanting you. Li Man was thoroughly dumbfounded at this moment, and when her consciousness finally returned, her face blushed as if it had been boiled. She reproached, You, what are you thinking in this broad daylight? Wife. Li Shu suddenly gripped her hand. Can you comply with me this once? And no, Li Shu. Li Man looked all around in a state of panic. She didn't know when the door was closed. She couldn't even see little Five's trace a long time ago. Release my hand first. Your body still has injuries. Then, Li Shu's eyes revealed a thread of craftiness. He hung down his head, leaning his head closer to her neck, softly and weakly imploring her, Wife, let me smell your fragrance. Saying this, he impudently extended his tongue and softly licked her fair and smooth neck. Li Man trembled, an electric current rolling around her whole body. She hurriedly stretched her hand and pushed him. Li Shu, don't make trouble. Wife, I want to lick you. After that one lick, he finally tasted her sweet taste. That tender and fragile flowery fragrance of hers made him wallowed in reverie. He unconsciously licked several more times, following along her neckline, slipping and digging inside her clothes. Li Shu, stop. Li Man anxiously shouted in disorder, but she still didn't dare to hit him because his whole body was riddled with injuries. How can she beat him then? Li Shu's big palm through her outer garment, revealing her smooth and delicate shoulder. His burning hot lips very impatiently kissed her exquisite butterfly valley. His big rough palms forged ahead from under her ribs, heavily gripping and kneading her beautiful white doves that was hiding in a layer of clothing, as if wanting to squeeze them out of their nest. Li Man became very anxious, struggling left and right. Li Shu, if you're not stopping now, I won't care about you anymore. Wife, you're so fragrant. Perhaps Li Shu also heard what she said, but he still wished to continue kissing this lovely wife of his. He rested his chin on her shoulder, his sexy warm and soft lips continuously rubbing her small earlobe, and with a hoarse voice he whispered, Wife, how can you be so fragrant? I really want, every day eating you like this. Feeling the passion in his body, his pair of big palms felt the flimsy clothing was so intolerable. He simply crawled inside and directly rubbing those lovely snow-white bunnies. "Wife, you're so soft here, it feels so nice to rub." He grabbed her tightly and used more force and strength gradually. Li Man felt painful and furiously pinched the meat on his arm. "Li Shu, don't talk anymore." "Then I'm just gonna do it." Li Shu used one of his hand to turn her face towards him. He gazed at the undergarment that covered her two white bunnies that were being propped up by his own hands. His eyes were filled red with lust. Li Man's heart trembled as she lowered her head, biting his neck ferociously. "MNG," Li Shu painfully groaned in a low voice, and Li Man released her mouth. "Li Shu, calm down a bit." He. However, Li Shu was still gazing at her with a smile on his face. "Wife, your biting was painful." "It was right if it's painful. Clear your head up now, okay?" "Wife, let me rub a little, kissing a bit, okay?" Li Shu looked at her red eyes full of anxiousness, afraid that she would cry. He could only settle for the second best option. Li Man glared at him widely. "No way." She exerted all of her strength to throw his unruly big hands from her clothes, and hurriedly tightened the girdle of her undergarment, straightening her outer jacket. Li Shu was somewhat losing heart and dejected as he held her waist from the back, rubbing her neck like a little cat, continuously crooning with a spoiled sound. "Wife, wait until my injuries are healed, then you can definitely yield to me." Li Man's body became stiff. "Li Shu, you should speak again after you properly recuperate. Don't just let your imagination running around all day." "Wife, I still want to have children as soon as possible," Li Shu said. "Ah? Children?" Li Man's thoughts stopped in a trance all of a sudden. Children, this one word. How long has it been since she married? She had been yearning for one every day, but her body wasn't able to. T/N, from her past life. But nowadays, she's still a healthy young girl that already made love with Li Mo. Then, will God take a pity on her and grant her with a lovely and healthy child? Li Man suddenly became agitated. "Wife." Li Shu's keen perception felt her changing mood. What happened? Li Man's face became red, her hands softly caressed her lower abdomen. She shook her head. "No problem." "Wife, how many children do you think should we have?" Li Shu started imagining while holding her in his arms. "I think we should at least have 2 children. The boy would be the big brother, and the girl would be the younger sister. That boy surely would resemble me, and the girl would resemble you." "Isn't this imagination still too far?" "There's still no sign of any children. How can there be big brother and little sister suddenly?" "Wife, you should give birth to my children first." Oh. Li Shu was really looking forward to their future. "Why?" Li Man asked curiously. When Li Shu just wanted to answer, suddenly he saw from the window, Xing Yang was bending over their courtyard's wall, T/N, her face full of jeer while staring at them inside the room. "You smelly woman." Li Shu suddenly released Li Man with fury, took something from the Kong bed and flung it over that Xing Yang. Xing Yang's body reflexively dodged and then she ferociously spit it on the ground, coldly sneering and cursing. "Truly a whore, it's still daylight and she's already hiding herself inside the room to do shameless things, really have no face." Li Man was shocked to see that Xing Yang's hands were holding onto their courtyard wall while scornfully hurling abusive words. "Courting death." Li Shu's blue veins popped out in anger. He quickly slid down from the bed and found a shovel from the corner of the room. In a great fury, he ran outside with his shovel. Li Man was startled. She wore her shoes in a great flurry and chased after him. TL note Nyang equals Mrs. or Miss. I'm not sure which one to use, but I guess it's Mrs. Xing Yang might be their neighbor, not so sure since I can't remember her in the story, and I can't translate some parts of the raw. Do any one of you remember her? I mean, who the heck peep on other people's house, even climbing their walls? And then calling the owner of the house a whore? Like, what? ___. As usual, not edited. Happy reading! If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 211 Afraid of Me? 1. Chapter 211 afraid of me? 1. Li Shu, don't act on impulse. Li Man persistently chased him to the backyard. Seeing that Li Shu grabbed the shovel tightly to hit Xingyang, she hastily held him by the waist. You stinking woman! Li Shu didn't struggle from Li Man, only pointing at Xingyang and cursed her with fury. Are you crazy now from thinking about man all day? Leaning on other people's wall and peeking inside, do you even want your face anymore? Don't want face? Xingyang was still leaning on the wall's edge with one hand on her hip. Her expression was full with disdain. Even if this grandmother doesn't want face, I will still not do this shameless thing in broad daylight. Realizing that Li Shu was being blocked by Li Man, she got even more courageous as her two eyes glared in a provoking manner towards him. She felt joyful seeing the wounds on his face, then afterwards, her eyes were attracted to Li Shu's strong pectoral muscle, slowly crawling to the only underpants he's wearing, and finally fell to his sturdy long legs. Xingyang slightly bit her lips, feeling that her eyes were pricked by something when she saw the bulge right on his crotch moving. Xingyang never expected that Li Shu's lower part was really imposing even though it's not stiff yet. If he give a reaction, then wouldn't he be able to make women happy to death? She can't help but felt a surging feeling, making her body felt hot and wet. Her eyes gave a seductive look towards Li Shu. Her former shrewish sound became tender and frail like a young girl. Yo, third son, what happened? Why is your face injured? Sister-in-law's heart feels very painful. Li Man was dumbfounded for a while. How can this woman's attitude change so quickly? Has this got any goddamn thing to do with you? Roll away for this grandfather, otherwise I'll beat you to death with this shovel. Li Shu said ruthlessly while raising the shovel in his hand ferociously. I won't fuss about you stinky woman today because of my wife. If there's a next time, I'll let you see for yourself what I'm gonna do with you fucker. After some cursing, Li Shu indolently looked at Xingyang's flattering look with contempt, then pulled Li Man over. Come on, wife, we should go back now. Oh. Li Man also realized Xingyang's profligate look towards Li Shu as she suppressed the burning fire inside her heart. Ai, third son, don't go. Sister-in-law is still not done talking with you. Sister-in-law has some medicine at my house, do you want it? Seeing him walking out, Xingyang felt somewhat hate to part with, and so she hastily shouted out to stop Li Shu. Li Shu ruthlessly spitted on the ground and cursed her, shameless. It looked like he had to set things straight in front of wife. After seeing Li Shu's great fury, Li Man also didn't dare to speak again, afraid that it will instead provoke him to beat people, although that woman really ought to be beaten. Soon afterwards, Li Shu went to the front yard. One can't see his shadow anymore, so Xingyang finally retracted her line of sight, twisting her face when she caught sight of her foolish man standing and looking around at her family's gate. She can't help but burn with jealousy and curse Li Man with anger. Shameless wretch, everyday fucking men all around while wearing clothes like a virgin. Xingyang vented her anger by spitting out saliva many times at Li family's gate. She can't stop thinking about Li Shu's swelling crotch and feeling an unbearable itchiness while clamping her pair of legs. A warm current gushed out from inside, provoking her until she panted hard. However, she's unable to relieve the lust burning her, so she had no other way but to yell out to her man, Big Shun, quickly retrieve second Shun, the dead cuckold, for this grandmother. When Li Shu just came back, he heard the shrill roar of Xingyang. He can't help but snort with laughter. Woman, you already can't hold yourself back. Li Man seized the shovel in his hand and put it back to the corner of the room. Li Shu, if you want to beat someone next time, you should choose the tool cautiously. Just a moment ago, if you used this shovel to beat that woman, you might kill someone else's family if you're not careful, then you'll have to pay with your own life. Isn't that just suffering a big loss? Then what should I use then? Li Shu laughed while seeing her worried look. Li Man looked all around and finally pointed at the broom. If you want to beat that kind of woman, it should be enough if you just use this plaything. You can slap her mouth or hit her butt. Just think of it as giving her a lesson, don't beat her to death. Li Shu sneered hee hee twice. Wife is also ruthless enough, slapping someone's mouth using a broom? That's interesting, but hitting a woman's buttocks? This still needs some deliberation, because he only wanted to hit a specific woman, little bum. What are you doing looking at me like that? Li Man became flustered because of his dark eyes staring at her with an ambiguous meaning. Then she remembered their situation that was disrupted because of Xing Yang. Li Shu, I'm gonna search for little 5 to teach some more words. Wife. Li Shu suddenly strode forward in a big step and grasped her arm firmly. Li Man immediately struggled. Li Shu, don't act recklessly. I haven't prepared myself enough, you. What are you afraid of? Li Shu laughed teasingly while poking her forehead, then said mysteriously, Wife, come with me, I'll take you to watch a play, a really good play. Good play? What kind of theater play could there be in this poor and remote mountain area? Li Man was curious and excitedly letting him pulling on her out. However, she was unexpectedly brought to squat down at the wall outside of Xing Yang's family's kitchen. What are we doing? Li Man curiously asked with widened eyes when she heard a woman's groans and hums coming from inside the room. What happened? Hush. Li Shu had covered her mouth at once, then using a single hand, he softly the small wooden window while his finger pointed inside for Li Man to see. Li Man's curiosity was roused, so she gazed through the small crack of the window, and immediately gaped dumbstruck by the spring scenery inside, her whole face flushed like a boiled shrimp. The woman's white hands was fastened to the roof beam with a rope. There was a rough black-skinned man each behind and in front of her, clamping her in the middle while ferociously moving in a bestial manner. ENN. Second Shun, hurry, use more strength, oh, yes, like that. NNNN, ah. Big Shun, you idiot, you're slipping out, quickly insert it in again, this grandmother's can't bear it Ann. You useless guy, how can you finish so quickly? Quick, grab that toy here. The man with a foolish appearance removed himself from her body with panic. He hastily reached out to the place under the cupboard, taking out a gigantic penis model from the wooden box, then swiftly and violently squeezed it inside Xing Yang's gaping lower cave, exerting his strength to push and pull like a piston. The woman's delighted shriek, the men's coarse and low roar, the scenery inside the room was too unbearable. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 212 Afraid of me? 2. Chapter 212 Afraid of me? 2. Li Man quickly squatted down again. She didn't dare to hear Xing Yang's unbridled voices any longer as she grabbed Li Shu's hem of clothing, trying to pull him away from this place. This smelly guy, the good play he said is actually peeking at this kind of thing, huh? Did he often peep like this before? Wife. Li Shu leaned against the foot of the wall as he squatted down. Her handsome and profound phoenix eyes was coated in a layer of desire, staring at Li Man longingly, wishing that he could immediately pounce on her, splitting and entering her belly. Li Man ferociously glared at him, wanting to walk out from this place. She stood up but was immediately pulled back by him. What are you two people doing squatting there? At this time, Li Yan's voice could be heard, frightening the two people to a jump. Li Man's feet became weak and soft, until finally she almost knelt on the ground, but was supported by Li Shu to get up. Hush, second brother, that woman is making pancake. She complained that Big Shun was useless and immediately used a wooden stake to stab herself off. Li Shu tugged Li Yan and whispered beside his ear. Li Yan giggled in a low voice, sparing a meaningful glance at Li Man without saying anything, seeing that she was flustered and ashamed. Li Man stuttered, not daring to look up and see straight to his eyes. Li Shu dragged me here. I didn't see anything. The last sentence was obviously said while awfully lacking in confidence. Then, what do you want to see? Li Yan asked faintly. Anan, second Shun, yes, like this, use more strength. Oh, Big Shun, twisted again, Ahan, so comfortable. Right at this time, Xing Yang's excited and annoying voice was transmitted out from inside the room. As Li Man was faced with Li Yan's interrogation, she felt extremely embarrassed and helpless as she had no way to explain anymore. She turned around, and all of a sudden ran away from them. Wife. Li Shu wanted to pull her back, but Li Yan beat his big hand. You really brought her here to see this kind of thing? Saying this, he also glanced a detesting look with the corner of his eyes through the small crack of the window. What is it? Li Shu looked at Li Yan's popping blood vessel. With one hand, Li Yan grabbed Li Shu's arm, pulling him from that detestable place. What are you still doing here? What are you trying to gain by dragging your own wife to see other people's affair? Big brother will also know about this. I'll see when he hits you later. Returning to their own courtyard, Li Shu slowly became sober when he saw second brother's dissatisfied look. He tried to beg, "Second brother, this matter today, can you not tell big brother?" Li Yan looked askance. "Alright, I won't tell, but don't ever do this kind of thing again, do you understand?" "Oh." Li Shu hung his head down, secretly turning a supercilious look. He only wanted to bring wife to watch a good show-off. "Alright, your body is still ridden with injuries. Go back now to your room and rest, don't just running around everywhere." After Li Yan taught his younger brother, he put down the hoe near the well and drew some water to wash his own face and hands, then he leisurely went to East room. Giving a lecture to third for once was enough, he also didn't want to easily let wife slip off. By peeking at that kind of scene, she already ate a big loss. He's still not sure if third brother's brain had already been kicked by a donkey or not. Standing at the door side, Li Yan still acted gentlemanly by knocking on the door because he believed himself as someone who was well-mannered and elegant. But after knocking the door a few times, the person inside still didn't give a response back. Perhaps she planned not to open the door, a pity that he still had many other ways to deal with her. Breaking through the window was the most straightforward way. Li Man was taken aback when she looked at Li Yan coming from the window. How did you come in?" She already cautiously fastened the window carefully. In Li Yan's hand was a thin bamboo slice. He raised his eyebrow and said, "Don't worry, that kind of wood wouldn't be able to block me." He's also able to lockpick? Li Man's heart jumped. Wouldn't he be able to get inside her room whenever he'd like then? "What's wrong with me?" Li Yan leisurely walked to the Kong bed. "How is your body now?" He only had her well-being in his mind. Did he jump from the window because he was being worried of her? Li Man didn't answer, only looking at him vigilantly. Li Yan can't help but frowned. "You dead girl, you're still looking at me like this, He angrily pinched her cheeks. "Am I making you disgusted? Every day looking at me like I'm your enemy." "Of course, which woman would like it if some man break through their window?" Li Man said. Li Yan laughed softly, innocently saying, "I did knock the door. If I don't open the door, then that means I don't want you to come in. You should be tactful and leave." Li Man was still the same, giving him a vexed look. She would make sure that there would be nothing like this in the future. The door and windows are of no use. What should she use to block him off? The more she thought, the more she became panicked. "Don't want to?" Li Yan narrowed his eyes, giving her a dangerous look. "What are you doing that you don't want to let me inside?" Li Man angrily said, "Do I have to tell you everything I do? Were you still thinking about what you saw just now?" The evil implication was clearly shown inside his glance towards her. Li Man's heart jumped, her cheeks became flushed with red as she closed her eyes and said, "I didn't think about that kind of thing." "Oh, so you did see that?" Li Yan hummed. Li Man paused. She just realized that she was being deceived by him to confess that she indeed saw that inappropriate scene. If you saw it, then you saw it. Why don't you dare to admit it?" Li Yan sat down on the Kong bed, the corners of his mouth raised up with a smile as he looked at her askance. "Angry? Blaming me for ruining your interest, for not letting you enjoy it? If it's like that, then you can go again. Big Brother and Little Five were probably still not finished with their works. You can go, I won't tell them. Li Man's face was brightly red like a boiled shrimp. She bit her lips as she said, "I don't want to see." "I know, it's third brother, that scoundrel, who deceived you to go there," Li Yan said casually. Li Man felt depressed. "He didn't tell me clearly. He said that he wanted to bring me to watch a good play. I thought it was just an opera play. Who knew?" "Alright, you don't need to explain anymore. I'm not making excuses, that's the truth. I don't want to see that kind of thing." "But, I saw you peeping with full vigor." "I didn't." "Then why is your face red?" "So it's true that you were thinking." "Li Yan, you bastard, scoundrel. She was forced by Li Yan until she became so irritated. Li Man stretched her hands, wanting to beat him a few times. Li Yan lowly laughed and grabbed her hands and brought them into his bosom. You little fool, I'm only teasing you, what are you so anxious about? Did he look like he was teasing her? He acted just like a policeman interrogating a brothel frequenter. Li Man shoved him. Release me. Don't want to. Li Yan's both arms held hers more tightly instead. Li Man struggled for a while in vain. She couldn't help but discovered, except for little Five, her minuscule strength was of no use against them brothers with strength that could frighten people. What do you want then? Looking at you. Li Yan can only helplessly shook his head seeing Li Man trying to pull back her body from him. I was only teasing you, really, why are you taking it seriously? Be good, don't cry. Who's crying? She busily avoided his fingers that wanted to rub her cheeks. Li Yan didn't believe it at all. If you're not crying, then why are your eyes this red? I like red, what's that got to do with you? Li Man was feeling depressed. He's also able to caught on her when she wanted to cry. Li Yan felt his heart hurt as he kissed her hair. You're my wife, stupid, of course I'd feel distressed if you cry. Li Man lifted her eyes and met his deep eyes straight on, but there's no ridicule inside his eyes, and instead she found his earnestness and affection. She wasn't sure anymore. Li Yan, what do you want in the end? Is there no other woman that you like? Is it because of that vow you made so you don't have any other way but to choose me? Who said that to you? Even if there's no vow, I still want you. You are my Li family's wife, you're also my, Li Yan's wife. If I don't want you, then who else? Li Yan said as if it was a matter of course. Li Man shook her head. Li Yan, be honest with me, is there really no other woman that you like? Li Yan didn't answer immediately, but rather gazed at her closely for a good while, then asked back, Man, are you being jealous? Jealous? Li Man glared at him widely. You're thinking too much. I'm only thinking, since you already have someone else, then don't come and provoke me, okay? I don't have. Li Yan answered decisively. What? Li Yan raised his right hand. I, Li Yan, hereby vow in front of you, that I absolutely don't have any other woman. You? Do you think I'd believe you? Li Man gave a snort of contempt. Li Yan didn't mind it and said, if you don't believe me then I can't do anything about it. At any rate, I only have you as my one and only woman. Do you want to check if what I said is true or not? How? Li Man was just thinking about how to give it a check, but she suddenly felt that something's not right and busily corrected herself. I'm not interested. Oh, it's up to you. Li Yan's fingers lightly pinched her red earlobe. Li Man busily threw him off. I don't allow you touching me. Alright, not touching, how about you let me look at your body's injuries? Li Yan said like he wanted to help her took off her clothes. And no, don't. Li Man said while avoiding him. Looking at her body moving to the corner, vigilantly watching him, Li Yan suddenly laughed. Stupid, do you think you can hide from me all your life like this? I'm your husband. Li Man bit her lips, she really didn't want to admit it. Are you afraid of me? Li Yan's brows locked tightly, his eyes looked astonished, as if he suddenly became conscious of this point. Li Man chose to not say anything. She herself wasn't sure if she feared him, but she didn't know how to fathom this person the most out of the men in this house. She also didn't have any way to control him. Just like when he broke through inside her room this time. If she didn't give any permission, the other men wouldn't even try to come inside, but he's really different. If he wanted to do something, he wouldn't care what she wanted and just directly do it. Li Yan lightly softened his breath. The answer was already inside his heart. Have you thought if you really fear me or not? Saying this, he stretched out his hand to caress her and somehow appease her, but she evaded him immediately. Silly, you don't need to be afraid of me. Besides, have I ever threatened you, hit you, or curse you? Big brother had a cold face like the depth of winter. Third brother had fiery temper that would frequently want to beat someone, but he has never seen her afraid of them. He's such a gentle and thoughtful man, but she actually afraid of him. He had some things that he can't understand, So he looked at her carefully. What are you afraid of me of? I have never even eat you. Big brother was the one who ate her until there's no residue left. Thinking about this, he became filled with anger. Li Man didn't say anything. Actually, she also felt angry to herself. What made her actually felt afraid of him? Two people was glaring at each other. Li Yan became gloomy all of a sudden. Since you're afraid of me, then why are you always act disobedient towards me? You don't listen to me even for a bit. Li Man's heart became irritated. It was obviously him that always make everything difficult for her, okay? She really admire his ability to turn black to white. Li Yan raised her eyes, gazing at her with unfathomable look. Li Man became nervous. What do you want to do? What are you afraid of? Li Yan didn't like her fearing him. He slowly leaned towards her and said, Girl, I'm truly good. You can try if you don't believe me. Li Yan, his body slowly pressing down on her. Li Man had to shrunk her body to the corner of the walls. Really, you don't have to be so nervous. Li Yan's one hand propped on the wall while the other lifted her face up. Her kiss gently fell on her lips like water flowing down slowly. Li Man instinctively thought to struggle, but his one big palm held her back, slowly caressing her up and down. His lips so warm and soft, lightly fondling and circling around the edge of her lips with the tip of his tongue, slowly but surely entering the small crevice of her mouth, searching for her restless tongue, leading her to madly tangling and twining in a dance. This kiss was particularly gentle and soft, without a threat of aggressiveness, just like an uninterrupted drizzle. She was drowned inside the sweet feeling. She felt herself like a tender and delicate flower being painstakingly protected by him, until she involuntarily laid down her defense. His kisses became deeper and deeper, nibbling into her heart. Looking at her soft and pliable body leaning inside his embrace, Li Yan's eyes became darker, his breathing became thick and heavy. Using one of his hand, he followed along the corner of her jacket and went inside. Li Man trembled as she let out a soft moan. When she just swayed in unease, she heard the door being pushed open. Wife. Li Man stiffened. She instantly was like being poured in the face with a basin of cold water that she forgot to give any reaction and just stayed paralyzed inside his bosom, afraid to even look up. Li Yan became depressed immediately. He flared up against Li Shu. Are you stupid? Do you not know how to knock? Second brother, you. Li Shu was stunned looking at second brother's hand at this time was inside wife's clothes, groping at the two soft and round bunnies that he yearned for day and night. His eyes immediately emitted fire as he crossed over with just a few big steps, pushing against Li Yan's arm, then using one hand he also covered Li Man's chest. He said furiously, I want to rub too. TL note. Li Shu. I can't. Li Yan is cock-blocked. O_O. CH 211. CH 213. Share this. Related. Fortunate wife. With 2 comments. Fortunate wife. With 7 comments. Fortunate wife. With 2 comments. 7 thoughts on fortunate wife. Lioningdale, November 18, 2019 at 10:22 a.m. Thank you for the chapter Red Heart. Liked by 1 person. Reply. Tsukio 16, November 18, 2019 at 7:34 p.m. Poor Li Hua doesn't get a share. Liked by 1 person. Reply. Grekalali, November 19, 2019 at 1:15 a.m. Li Shu needs to calm down. He can't expect her to want to be groped all at once. She's still coming to terms with the culture shock she's had since finding out her options in that life, and Li Yan finally showed her he isn't so scary, just angsty. LOL. Like. Reply. Yang Yojing, November 19, 2019 at 9:19 a.m. Like Shu. I can't ha. Sometimes I thought he is the comedic character in this novel. Liked by 2 people. Reply. Winter Kaguya, November 20, 2019 at 4:35 p.m. Li Shu, you're so dead. Ha. Like. Reply. Ichi-chan November 20, 2019 at 9:08 p.m. Oh my. So cute and silly, hahas, thank you. Like. Reply. Ignzi November 27, 2019 at 3:58 a.m. Tie for the chapter. Also, this is why you are so dislike Li Yan, seriously crappy, just like when he broke through inside her room this time. If she didn't give any permission, the other men wouldn't even try to come inside, but he's really different. If he wanted to do something, he wouldn't care what she wanted and just directly do it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 213, Liven Things Up, 1. Chapter 213, Liven Things Up, 1. You troublemaker. What are you rubbing? Li Yan used one hand and caught Li Shu's wicked claw, tossing it away furiously. I'm rubbing my own wife. Li Shu wasn't willing to be outdone, one arm thrown, the other arm went for the win, pinching and playing with Li Man's right breast like it was a Play-Doh. Humph, didn't second brother go back to this room to eat wife secretly, ah? Li Man's whole body trembled, looking at those two brothers in dispute without caring that she's in the middle, one person groping one of her breasts. She can't help but thinking about the scene with Xing Yang that she just saw and suddenly felt humiliation all over. She pointed to the door angrily, you both, roll away. Man, Li Yan wasn't reconciled. It was the first time he felt like she would receive him, but it was interrupted in such a way. Wife, don't be partial, ah. Li Shu hid his grievances and thought that it would be harmful to the body. How can second brother came here kissing and rubbing and it was still okay, ah? You guys, looking at them not moving at all, and even wanted to fight to seize her. Li Man's whole body trembled with anger as she resolutely pushed them away, slipping away from the Kong bed and ran out, not caring that she's still not wearing pants. Girl. Wife. Li Shu and Li Yan both made a dash to catch her. However, Li Man's shadow already can't be seen inside the courtyard. They searched to the west room and kitchen in vain too. The two people busily went outside to search. Although Li Man felt extremely ashamed and resentful, but she still didn't know where to go, she could only persistently ran to somewhere remote and without people. She only wanted to find somewhere quiet, waiting for her mind to be better. Li Mo just went back from the village's gate when he ran into Li Man unexpectedly. He became happy and ran over to her, Man. Who would have thought that Li Man was still wallowing inside her own moodiness, lowering her head and single-mindedly ran without looking and hearing him even once, running past him with a hurting expression. Li Mo was startled endlessly. He felt like he couldn't be mistaken. He saw Man with her coiled bun loosened and not properly dressed. She wasn't even wearing any shoes and her expression looked like she wanted to cry. In a split second, Li Mo's heart burned with fire, giving the wild pheasant to Big Black, and chased Li Man with quick strides. Man, arriving at the small road behind the mountain, Li Mo abruptly held her inside his bosom from the back. Li Man was shocked and instinctively struggled, Get off me! Man, it's me. Li Mo hurriedly turned her body and looked at her red eyes with a bit of glistening teardrops threatening to fall. His heart felt like it was stabbed ruthlessly. What happened? Who bullied you? Big brother. Raising her head, she looked at the worry and pity inside his eyes. Li Man lamented inside her heart even more and immediately threw herself inside his embrace, sobbing and weeping. Li Mo's heart felt like it was cut by a knife, as his big palm softly and gently patting her back. It's okay, I'm back. Li Man cried for a while in his arms and felt that her mood finally calmed down. Where did you go? I went to the mountains. Li Mo helped her wipe the tears on her cheeks. Tell me, who bullied you? Was it second brother? Li Man shook her head. She can't say who bullied who, it's just, at that time, that kind of scene made her felt embarrassed and humiliated. She didn't know what her real position inside those brothers' eyes. That's right, they treated her nicely, however, they also acted like ravenous wolves at the same time, constantly staring at her like they wanted to split and eat her clean down to their bellies at any time. Even to the extent that they constantly being in heat at any time and any place, making her felt like an object to vent their lust to. She didn't like this kind of feeling. Li Mo's eyes pouring with anger. He could guess without her saying anything, who's the one who can bully her in home besides second and third? Looking at her in a sore strait once again, he already knew what happened without even thinking. Don't cry anymore, let's go home, I'll carry you on my back. Li Mo said as he knelt down. Li Man still shook her head, no need, I can walk myself, but. Looking at the lime plaster on top of her socks, Li Mo felt distressed. He got up and directly carried her inside his embrace. You. Feeling as if the sky and earth were spinning, Li Man fell into his warm embrace as she smelled his body's unique smell. Her heart suddenly felt not so empty and messy anymore. Big brother. Li Man heaved a sigh and called out. Her face was sticking to his sturdy chest, both of her arms circling his waist. Li Mo's body went stiff for a while. He looked down to see her. The wrinkling small face was nesting inside his bosom, just like a little kitten who got bullied and finally found its master, letting his heart full of pity and reluctant. It's all right now. As they walked for a bit, they could see both Li Yan and Li Shu running over. Big brother. Li Yan gave a glance at the small young girl inside Li Mo's embrace. His eyes betrayed a complicated expression. Li Mo swept a cold glance over those two people while no stopping, back home. Li Shu gloomily closed his mouth as he followed from their back like a well-behaved child. He asked restlessly, is wife all right? Li Mo didn't respond and just directly went to their house while holding Li Man. After putting her on the East Room's Kong bed, he then turned his head and asked the two brothers, shoes? Oh, I'll go and grab it. Li Shu busily ran outside. Li Yan knew that Big Brother was really furious. He looked at Li Man sitting on the bed, drooping her head down. The rim of her eyes were red in silence, like a delicate and charming girl. His heart felt distressed as he said voluntarily, I'll go and boil some hot water. After the two people went out, Li Mo half squatted in front of Li Man, taking off the dirty socks from her feet. Wash and change into a clean one in a while, okay? Li Shu came bringing her shoes as Li Yan carried a basin of hot water. They both put the things beside Li Man's feet, wanting to help her wash her feet but was instead interrupted by Li Mo. He held her delicate small feet and soaked them inside the warm water. His big palms softly and gently rubbed the sole of her feet. She must have felt hurt because of the rocks at the road outside. Li Man stared blankly at Li Mo. His gentle and intimate movements gradually dispersed the slight chill inside her heart. Wife. Seeing her only staring at Big Brother and turned a deaf ear towards him and second brother, Li Shu's heart felt extremely unbearable. I was wrong. Get out. Li Mo's head wasn't even lifted up when he berated him with a deep voice. Big brother. Li Shu felt unwilling. Li Yan's eyebrows became locked deeply as he stepped back while pulling Li Shu with him. Go, we should go out first. After the two people went out, Li Mo helped Li Man washed her feet clean and covered them with clean socks and shoes. Man, rest for a while. I caught a pheasant today, I'll boil it for you to drink later. Big brother. Li Man saw that something was wrong with Li Mo's expression. Don't make it difficult for them, actually, this matter, how to say it The matter before is a bit too complicated. Now after she calmed down a bit, she felt that Li Yan was just seized with a sudden impulse. Furthermore, it looked like Li Shu also wasn't deliberate. It's not that serious. She said. I know how far to go and when to stop, don't think too much, just rest. Li Mo told her a sentence, then she brought the dirty water and went out the door. Big brother. Looking at him going out the door, Li Shu stepped forward and called out. He and Li Yan was waiting all the time in front of the door, and they also heard Li Man pleaded for them both, making their heart felt all the more remorseful. After Li Mo poured the dirty water outside the yard, he came back and put down the basin, then cast a cold glance to the two-person in front of him. Big brother, we were wrong in this matter. Li Yan breathed in air and decided to speak first. Li Shu also knew that he had no justification for himself. Also me, I was too impulsive that time. Li Mo's expression became all the more cold and sharp as his both hands unconsciously tightened in a fist. We didn't think. Li Yan busily interrupted Li Shu's speech, afraid that the more he said, the more he would incur Big Brother's misunderstanding. Big Brother, it's not like what you're thinking about, there's nothing happening. Li Mo calmly looked at Li Yan. What's still not happening? Then how could MANHWA became like that? That is. Li Yan breathed in slowly and said, I was in the room with MANHWA. Third suddenly rushed inside, but MANHWA was too thin-skinned, so she ran because she was embarrassed. And that's what happened. Li Shu violently nodded his head with an innocent appearance. He really was jealous and lost his mind that time. He basically didn't think about other thing. Li Mo knew that they didn't lie, but second brother's simple speech delivered him certain information. Added with how Li Man wasn't properly dressed, he could easily deduce the whole affair. So second brother was being intimate with MANHWA inside the room but was seen by third brother. This crude and rash man immediately wanted to join, and resulted in MANHWA being mortally ashamed, so she ran right then and there, and afterwards met with him on the way. Although knowing the truth, but Li Mo's heart couldn't help but felt like there was someone lightly pricking it with embroidery needle continuously. However, he knew that MANHWA was also second and third's wife. They also had a longing to be intimate with her. MANHWA is still hurting. Finally, he can't help but speak this sentence. Li Yan looked at Big Brother's entanglement on his forehead like a clear mirror. Big Brother, MANHWA is also my wife. My love for her isn't inferior from yours. Right, Big Brother, I also love her. Li Shu also hastily expressed his true feelings out. Li Mo nodded his head. Alright, you guys already this big, you already know propriety in doing things. Third, your body's still wounded, don't make trouble, go back to your room and properly rest. After saying this, he went and tidied up the wild pheasant. Li Yan also went to help. Big Brother, let me help. No need. Li Mo refused him. Big Brother. Li Yan obstinately grabbed the pheasant from his hand. I'm more skillful at doing this kind of things than you. Besides, this is to nourish MANHWA's body. If it's not delicious, wouldn't it be wasteful if she won't eat? Li Mo looked at second brother like this. He could only heave a deep sigh and made an abrupt remark. MANHWA isn't the same like all the other women. Li Yan's hand that was plucking the feather stopped for a while. His lips curled faintly. I know. Until now, he could see that that girl wanted to leave this house, and that her heart can't accept herself becoming a wife of so many men, can't accept to do intimate acts with them brothers. This was actually rare in this goddess ravine village. The majority of women who came here all understand clearly what their fate would be, even though at the beginning they would have some apprehension, but they would accept the reality at last. Of course they can't be like those men that would use their wives as a tool for producing air or venting their lust. They loved this woman, so they weren't willing to force her up until now. Thinking that when some women marry over, they had to do it many times with several men at the same day, that they couldn't even think about going out of the bed for at least half a month, that girl, MANHWA, marrying into Li family, was really her fortune. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 214, Liven Things Up, 2. Chapter 214, Liven Things Up, 2. Big Brother. Li Yan shook his head and lightly laughed, seeing Li Mo's calm face was in a daze. We all know that Big Brother loves that girl. However, Big Brother already ate and received all of her, so you should have a pity on me. Third and fourth, that. Li Yan said it like Li Mo wanted to have all the food to himself. MANHWA's body is still wounded. Li Yan was plucking out the pheasant's feather, threw it away, and then he smiled and said, those wounds are too light to be mentioned. That day, second Shun's wife fell ill until she became like that. Didn't his dad still did what he wanted to do? Second, you dare? After Li Mo heard him saying that kind of thing, his face suddenly fell. Li Yan busily waved his hands. Of course we brothers won't do that kind of thing that's worse than dog or pig. T/N, lower than low. Li Mo's complexion gradually eased up, but he still said firmly, MANHWA's body is still not good. Everyone is not allowed to try anything on her. I understand. Li Yan said as he pressed down the water basin. I just spoke thoughtlessly, but that girl can't tell good from bad. she doesn't know that meeting us is like falling into a fortune nest. If it's other family, she would have to do everything inside and outside the house, living a life just to serve men. Where can you find a woman that can pull a long face when the men want her? Liemo felt a bit uneasy after hearing it. Second, how can you speak like this? If she doesn't want it, then you can't just force her, alright? Who forced her? Li Yan gloomily snorted, I'm like a prisoner with Big Brother here. That dead girl, when she sees me, she treats me like her personal enemy. How can I have a go with her? I'm already living like a monk, I also don't know when I offend her. It was not at all easy to have that tiny bit of progress, but it was destroyed by that bastard third brother just like that. This time is still alright, but next time, that girl would guard against him even more. Liemo looked at him speaking pitifully, he can't help but wanted to laugh. Second, all of those ladies out there usually like you, how can you feel so disheartened today? Big brother, can you please not make fun of me? Li Yan raised his brows to him and snorted, really, if that dead girl acts like this every time, I might not be able to bear it anymore. Second. Li Mo's face sunk. Li Yan said, Big brother, don't worry, I won't hurt her, it's just that. He thought about changing his tactic to a comparatively milder way so Big Brother can accept it. It would be better if we brothers could round the room with her earlier, then she would be our person thoroughly, at least, we wouldn't be worried if there's any unforeseen event. Liemo looked at him deeply but didn't say anything. Li Yan smiled slightly, it looks like Big Brother's heart still feels anxious. At noon, Li Yan stewed a big wok of chicken soup until the meat completely broke into bits. He chose the upper leg meat and threw the greasy oil on top of the soup, giving it a light taste and preparing to give that big bowl to Li Man. But when he arrived outside her room, he instead told Little Five to knock on the door. Little Five didn't understand, but he still did as what his second brother said. After knocking on the door several times, he said, Sister, second brother stewed a pheasant soup and want to give a bowl to you. Li Man thought that Little Five was the one who was bringing the soup, so she said, the door isn't fastened, you can come inside. Oh. Little Five hummed in response. However, the one who came in was Li Yan. Li Man paused and felt a bit surprised, It's you? Where's Little Five? I told him to go and eat. Li Yan put down the bowl at the bedside. Li Man turned her face away, she didn't want to look at him nor did she want to speak to him. After Li Yan put the bowl on the windowsill, he sat down at the corner of the bed, Are you still angry about that matter at noon, Li Man's face felt like it was boiling hot, how can anyone not get angry and want to run away if they met that kind of thing, That, are you angry with me or angry with third brother? Li Yan asked, his gaze was rippling with hope. Li Man's face was just like a boiled shrimp, she bit her lips and kept on being silent. Oh, I know. Li Yan suddenly laughed lightly, it's of course third brother's crude way that made you angry, that's right, that bloke just doesn't know how to be tactful. When we were that happy that time, he actually came in and disturbed. Who's happy? He said it like they were having an illicit relationship. Li Man immediately denied it. Oh, you weren't happy? Li Yan looked straight to her eyes and said seriously, it seems that I still have to try hard, next time I assure you, I'd make wife feel comfortable and happy. You. Li Man hurriedly explained, I didn't mean it that way. Then, what do you mean? How about I tell third brother to come and apologize to you? Li Yan said as he got up and wanted to search for the person to come. It's not if this time he finally shoo and asked him to apologize to her, where could she put her face? Li Man busily got up and pulled Li Yan, there's no need to find him. Why? Li Yan was unconvinced as he looked at her, afterwards, he consoled her, don't worry, there's me here, that bloke wouldn't dare to do anything. Furthermore, Big Brother is still at home. If that bloke ever dared to sound a peep, just let Big Brother beat him into shape. It's not like that. Li Man shook off his hand, thinking that she's unable to explain clearly with him, so she just sat down and didn't say anything anymore. Li Yan saw her angry look and laughed hee. He sat down close to her, his big palm rubbed the hair on her head gently, smiling, Fool, I know what you mean, That matter made you ashamed and now you don't dare to see anyone, right? Li Man's heart trembled, so he understands? But since he understands, why is he still doesn't know how to be tactful? Looking at her eyelids trembled a little, he thought that her heart was moved, so he continued and said, however, you can't just not see people all your life. Li Man whispered under her breath, she also didn't want to not see people all her life. It's just, that matter happened just now, they should give her some time to adjust. Furthermore, you're our wife, and us your men, what a man and a wife do inside the room is perfectly justified, every household do it, what are you afraid of? But there's no such thing as two brother doing it together. Li Man refuted in her heart. As if he guessed what she thought, Li Yin immediately said, if you don't like us brothers doing it together, then we will do it one by one later. I guarantee that next time we're together, I won't let third come and cause trouble. How can he say it like that? As expected, she can't put her expectation on this evildoer. Li Yin, I'm already alright, you should go and eat. Li Man wanted to put off her conversation with him, but she couldn't think any other way than this, she only wanted to rush him out. Not angry anymore? Li Yin cocked his head as he got closer to her. Can't he see if I'm angry or not? Li Man shook her head, you stewed this soup? It's really fragrant. Quick and try it. Li Yin said as he handed over the bowl from the windowsill to her hand, be careful, it's hot. Li Man smiled at him, thanks, you go and eat too. All right. It was really rare that this girl could speak sweetly like this to him. Li Yin endured his wish to get intimate with her as he wore a smile like an amiable person and went out the door. Li Man drooped her head as she picked the meat inside the bowl using her chopsticks. The meat was all from the upper leg part, the skin was all picked up, maybe he saw when she spitted out chicken skin, and because she's afraid of oily food, he especially prepared this soup so it won't be greasy. She can't help but stared in a daze towards this bowl of appetizing chicken soup. She recalled when she was in a difficult situation in Goddess Ravine village, how Li Mo rescued her from the rope and how Li Yin and Li Shu beat up the man who wanted to rape her. At dusk, Li Mo carried her home, Li Shu prepared hot water for her to wash up, Li Yin gave her clothes, and still showed consideration by giving her a room. She felt at ease after seeing their genial smiling faces. Those men that always leaned on her door timidly to curry favor and peeped, the neat youth that helped her sew her quilt. Perhaps everything was actually perfect, it was just her that worried too much. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 215, Liven Things Up, 3. Chapter 215, Liven Things Up, 3. After she was done eating, when she just wanted to deliver the empty bowl to the kitchen, she saw a person's figure flashed from her doorway that made her paused for a while. Walking out, she found Li Shu leaning on the wall's edge, tweaking his ears and scratching his ears with an anxious appearance. Li Man thought to go over and ask him, but when she recalled what he had done to herself, she suddenly lost the will to go. Right at this time, Li Shu lifted his head up and looked at Li Man. He strode forward with big steps. Wife, are you done eating? There's still some inside the pot. I'll help you ladle one bowl more. Saying this, he grabbed the empty bowl inside her hand and eagerly went to the kitchen. Li Man of course didn't feel hungry. How could she feel hungry after eating one big bowl of meat soup? So she also followed to the kitchen, saw Li Shu was scooping out the soup for her from the pot. She hurriedly said, Li Shu, I'm full. Only a bowl and you're already full? Eat a bit more, second brother's stewed soup is really fragrant. As Li Shu was saying this, the bowl was already filled. Li Mo gave his seat for Li Man. Li Man sat down near little Feis, then looked at them all gnawing on corn-steamed bun next to a bowl of thin porridge. She can't help but became stupefied. Isn't there any meat left in the pot? Li Mo said, you and third is still hurt, so you guys should nourish your body. He. Li Shu smiled while pushing a bowl of chicken soup to Li Man. Wife, eat more. Li Man immediately grabbed the bowl to Little Five. Little Five, come on, eat while it's hot. Sister, I won't eat. Little Five smelled the savory fragrance and became somewhat greedy. but it was made to nourish sister's body, so he held himself back. Sister, eat. Sister already ate, you eat this one. Li Man looked at him, not touching the soup, so she grabbed a chopstick, pinching a shred of meat to his mouth. Little Five, be good, eat. Little Five looked at his several brothers, not having any objection, so he grinned and ate the soup happily. Li Man then passed the bowl to him, then gave a glance towards the three brothers. Her heart was suddenly moved when she saw their sincere and honest gaze on her. Having these many men loving her dearly was her fortune. Perhaps the god compensated her in this lifetime. Getting up, Li Man walked to the kitchen range and took 2 clean bowls, then scooped some more meat and soup from the pot, giving it to Li Mo and Li Yan. One person, one bowl, this much, you two have to finish this all, I won't allow any leftover. After instructing them like so, she looked at Li Shu. This fellow's appetite was really huge. Alright, looking at his eager expression, Li Man also ladled him a bowl. You spitted that many blood yesterday, you have to nourish your body properly. When Li Shu heard her, he took the bowl with joy and sipped a mouthful of soup. Then he suddenly realized the taste was so delicious, he was surprised. How can it be different from the bowl of soup he drank before? Li Mo and Li Yan looked at Li Man acting like that. They both smiled slightly. At afternoon, Li Mo and Li Yan both went to the field. Li Shu was sleeping inside the east room. Li Mo was feeling bored without nothing to do, so she looked at Little Five, who was learning characters in the courtyard. She didn't realize when, but she felt the sun hanging up high, basking people under it. She moved the small stool under the peach tree, seeing that the tree was already full with fruits. Realizing that she could eat that sweet peach before long, her heart became extremely happy. Little Five. At this time, a girl's voice lightly called out from outside the gate. Little Five lifted his head and looked over. He was shocked. Sister Muden? Li Man abruptly turned her head and looked over, seeing Muden standing in a timid manner at the side of the wattled wall, as if wishing to come in but didn't dare to. Little Five, come here and see. Recalling how the last time Muden came over and the brothers got into a quarrel, finally, Li Yan still had to came back with battered nose and swollen face. Although she believed numerous times that there was something going on between Muden and Li Yan, and she indeed did want to help them together, but Li Yan's attitude towards this was very clear. He really didn't have any affection towards Muden. So, Li Man felt that she might as well won't get her hand on this matter, and directly let Little Five dismiss her. Little Five ran over. Sister Muden, is anything the matter? Even Little Five's attitude was estranged. Muden's heart felt unwell as the rim of her eyes became red. Is your second brother home? Second brother went to the field to work. Little Five answered. Oh. Muden's eyes looked sideways at the girl under the peach tree. I want to talk a bit with your wife. Ah. Little Five paused a bit. When his mind came back again, his small face was flushed red from shyness, and he gave his agreement. Okay, I'll help you call her. Saying this, Little Five ran back. Sister Muden was searching for you to talk a bit. Oh. Li Man actually didn't want to talk with this girl. To be precise, afternoon today, her mind had a great change. Before, she thought that Muden and Li Yan was childhood sweethearts, an inherent couple, but nowadays, Li Yan was hell-bent on being her man. Having her own man being coveted with greedy eyes by another woman, this feeling was really not good. Little Five, write down this poem once, later I want to dictate it. After ordering Little Five, Li Man got up and walked to the gate. Miss Muden. She looked at Muden with a slight smile. What do you need searching for me? Muden's beautiful eyes deeply looked at Li Man. Without speaking, her eyes became red like she wanted to cry. Li Man was astounded. What happened? The day after tomorrow, the Shen family will send betrothal gifts. Muden said with bead of tears rolling down her face. Furthermore, Shen family's master will come too. They will come and discuss about this marriage with my mother and father. My parents thought that the faster the marriage is, the better it would be. I might be married away in 5th or 6th month. Li Man felt a bit of sympathy on her. If you're not willing, you should discuss it clearly with your mother and father. You're their daughter, they won't force you. No. Muden shook her head, like a weeping beauty. She looked at Li Man with implore. Can you help me send a message to Li Yan? What? Send a message? Li Man muttered to herself, then shook her head. you should directly tell him yourself if you have anything to say. I am afraid that he won't want to see me. Last time, my dad and brother was like that to him. I don't have any face to see him. Newton's face was smeared with tears. She must be talking about the last time Li Yan came back with blooded nose. However, the matter about feelings, Li Man thought that she can't help anymore. The thing was, she tried, but Li Yan. My apologies, I can't help you with this thing anymore. Newton lifted her head in shock. Are you afraid that I would snatch brother Li Yan so you don't consent to help me? Why is she talking like that? No, about this matter, I only think that it's best if the concerned people discuss it face to face. You said it clearly last time that you would help me get him. Newton's tear-filled eyes was smeared with wrath a bit. It looks like she has a hand in how my relationship got sour with brother Li Yan. Li Man was bewildered all of a sudden. She felt it hard to talk about this kind of thing. However, she indeed had some faults. I'm sorry, I was too self-opinionated before, but feeling is not an object that can be given however we want. If there's really a heartfelt love between you both, then there would be no need for me to help. Newton felt frustrated. But I only want you to send a message for me. What message? Li Man had no choice but to ask. Newton's eyes lightened in a split of a second. She got closer to Li Man a bit and said, tell him to meet me tomorrow at Inshur, 3 to 5 a.m., at the same place. Be sure to wait there. At the same place? Li Man's heart thumped a bit. They had a usual designated place to meet already. Surely there's something unusual between them. Seeing Li Man with a wooden look, Newton told a line with a small voice, Sister Li Man, you definitely has to help me. Help me send this message to him. If he's not coming, you won't be seeing me anymore in the future. Why does her words have a hint of menace? Li Man wanted to persuade her, but when she saw Newton's expression, she suddenly felt whatever her words may be, it would only be useless. Alright, Li Yan owed this love's debt. He should go himself and take care of it. Okay, I'll be sure to send this message to him, but it's his own matter if he wants to go or not. He definitely will go. Calmly looking at Li Man, Newton's eyes rippled with a determination to win. Looking at her willowy frail figure of her, Li Man thought, such a stubborn and persistent woman, if she truly could be with Li Yan. Damn it, why so persistent at this time? Her heart abruptly became agitated. On the road when Newton was going back, the tears on the corner of her eyes already dried up. She especially took the time when the men of the Li family wasn't at home to come over, only to say these words to Li Man. Coming once, can state clearly her determination to not give up on Li Yan. Coming twice, it depended on Li Yan's attitude towards her. Regardless of what she said, he would not hear her, so she can only take this chance to meet with him alone. Yo, isn't this younger sister Newton? All of a sudden, a coquettish voice came over from her front, startling Newton to lift up her head. She saw Xing Yang coming back from who knew where, with a face beaming with satisfaction. As second Shun's sister-in-law. Newton had a good manner. Even to Xing Yang, who was loathed by everyone in the village, she still would be courteous and greet her. T/N, it's not that Xing Yang is her sister-in-law, in Chinese she said, which means the married woman of second Shun family. When Xing Yang heard it, her eyes opened with happiness, intimately came over and seized her hand, smilingly said, Iodo, I see, all said that younger sister Newton's pair of hands were more beautiful than Vega. Newton busily pulled back her hand and retreated a step. Second Shun's sister-in-law, I still have some matters I need to do. Why so anxious? Xing Yang pulled her arm and went to a nearby house's corner. Xing Yang's eyes firmly measured Newton all over. What happened? Who bullied younger sister? Your eyes are red. And none. Xing Yang's reputation in the village wasn't good. Newton didn't want to be tangled up with her and harm her own good name, so she busily shoved her, wanting to leave. Xing Yang's strength was big. She pulled her to stay as she said, Younger sister, no need to say, your sister-in-law already know. He's not worth younger sister. You say, what else the Li Yan got other than his handsome look? Unexpectedly, he doesn't want such a beautiful woman like sister? He's so stupid. The former words made Newton's heart moved, but when she said that Li Yan was stupid, Newton suddenly felt unhappy. Brother Li Yan isn't a stupid man. What is this? Sister-in-law was only talking about him one sentence and your heart already hurting, ah? Xing Yang teased her. Newton lowered her eyes in a bashful manner. Sister-in-law, what are you talking about? I want to go back. No need to be so anxious, there's no one here, your sister-in-law won't talk about it to other person. Xing Yang didn't let go of the person and said in a low voice, younger sister, don't lie to me, your sister-in-law is someone who has had the experience, my family and Li family is only separated by a wall, what happened to you and Li Yin could be seen clearly by me, don't try to deceive me. Sister-in-law? Newton was startled, what is this smelly woman wants to do? Talking nonsense everywhere and damaging my reputation everywhere? However, she's not afraid, if it's known by everyone, perhaps mother and father would have no other alternative and let Li Yin come and marry her. Don't be afraid. Xing Yang reassured her, sister-in-law only wants to help you, but... Help me? Newton can't see what method she can use to help her. Xing Yang nodded her head, as she got closer to her, she mysteriously said in a low voice, you also know what sister-in-law did before, although it didn't appear decent, but it's just that old woman saying the grapes are sour when in fact she can't eat them, they don't have any man but insisted on cursing me. Newton frowned her eyebrows after hearing it, if there's anything to say, please say it directly. Alright Xing Yang also became blunt, sister-in-law have a drug here, if a man eat this, guaranteed that he will become as ferocious as wolves and tigers, not to mention with you, such a beautiful woman and inexperienced, he would feel like he ascended the heaven. Newton was in great alarm, what you said is, aphrodisiac. Hush, this is only a drug to liven things up. Xing Yang lightly looked askance and smiled, wait until you and him cook the rice, would there be any need to fear that he doesn't want you? Newton hesitated. Alright, I only pulled you here because I took a pity on you. You see, ever since that girl came to Li family, how come you became so thin like this only after a few days gone by? It's because Li Yin is being fickle and infatuated with that girl. Xing Yang said. But? No buts. Xing Yang was impatient and interrupted her, stuffing a small bottle of medicine inside her hand and instilled, it's very simple, just put in this drug inside his tea and let him drink it, in less than an hour, I guarantee he would be mad and toss you. I don't want. Newton's face all red and she forcefully gave back the medicine. Xing Yang was panic-stricken, her finger jabbed Newton's forehead, foolish young girl, you're really such a mule. You can't always be a blockhead if you want to get a man, you had to have a bit of ability Your appearance isn't less than that girl, your temper is better than her, you say, how can Li Yin suddenly didn't care about you when she came? Newton felt a stab in her heart, she was also in suffering like this. Xing Yang continued, that woman can entice them by flattery, can dress herself, don't start with her face that looked pure as jade and clean as ice, her innermost nature should be one of a whore. Pulling her men in broad daylight to do that kind of thing, I already caught them in the act several times. Newton's heart jumped, it was hard to believe. Xing Yang curled her lips in absolute disdain, it's you who are foolish just think about it, who in Goddess Ravine village acts so wanton like her, you say, do you think she has no skill handling those men together? Newton stared blankly, so she actually used this kind of embarrassing and despicable thing to win men's hearts? Xing Yang looked at her expression and she already knew that her heart was swayed, so she pushed the drug inside her hands again, don't be naive, take it. Man all of them are animals who think with their lower parts, if you don't give him a bit of benefit, don't hope for them to be hell-bent on you. After saying this, she turned around while swaying her waist and walked away. Newton, who was left behind, was now stood in the same place, staring blankly at the drug in her hands. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible.